I think it's like Frogman.
Frogman.
Which I kind of like. I kind of like Frogman, by the way. Like, I did look up Frogman. It's kind of a cool character. I hope they don't flub it, because I'm intrigued. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it ends.
Kermit.
Yeah.
They used Disney IP. They finally used that Disney IP.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see those feet.
Just fucking.
Hey Kevin, we made Frogman look a little more like Kermit. No, I said use Kermit.
Literally,
just
use
use the puppet. Welcome to Lights Camera Barstool, episode 53 of season 2, and Lights Camera Barstool is presented by Omega Accounting Solutions. If your business suffered significant financial losses or had to shut down in part or in full during the pandemic, you may be eligible for ERC Employee Retention Credit, the powerful payroll tax credit. ERC was passed as part of the CARES Act to help small businesses recover from the pandemic. If you employed 5 to 500 employees and paid payroll during COVID, you may be eligible for a refund of up to $26,000 per employee. There are numerous subsidies, tax credits for big businesses. Large corporations have taken advantage of these for decades. The Employee Retention Credit is finally a subsidy made exclusively for small businesses, but has a limited window of opportunity. Now is the time to act before the government's filing window closes and this refund is gone for good. Omega Accounting Solutions is a government tax incentive expert and offers services in business intelligence, fractional accounting, and analytics. Omega is a small business champion, helping small business owners navigate the complexities of the accounting process, particularly for the immense opportunities around the ERC, and empowers small and mid-sized businesses and owners to make informed business decisions through powerful accounting, data analytics, and insightful reporting. A 10-minute call to Omega's ERC specialist can help your company recover up to $26,000 per employee. Call Omega Accounting Solutions at 800-704-2000. That's 800-704-2000, or go to OmegaTaxCredits.com to learn more. Thank you to Omega, our presenting sponsor of, I almost said a completely different show, Lights Camera Barstool. Jeff Lowe, Ken Jack, Chris Castellani, Gooch coming at you here with another episode of a lot of breakdowns and interviews. So many shows. A lot of shows, and more coming out, too. Don't worry, we're adding Andor next week.
That's right.
It's so nice, though, that it's weekly release. We're back to weekly releases.
Yeah, it's good.
It makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, it's significantly easier to break down episode by episode versus like when we were talking about Stranger Things and had to just talk about like an entire 5-episode thing and condense that into an episode.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, and I'm excited to add Andor. We'll talk about Andor in a second. We're also reviewing Barbarian today, a horror movie we talked with Justin Long about. He was in the movie, making sure people have time to see it. We also have interviews with Ty West, who directed Pearl, also X, the other horror movie that came out in his trilogy earlier this year. We went and saw Pearl, so we talked to him. Really fun interview with him. Really great breakdown of the movie. Make sure you go see Pearl before you listen to it. And also, we had Kevin Smith in studio.
We did.
Kevin Smith, always a time. Endless stories, endless things to talk about. So we will get into all of that very shortly. Off the top, Chris's football team won. That's cool.
I was about to lead off with that. I believe
very cool.
I believe I'm the only person on this panel whose team won this week, which
that's true.
Considering I root for the Lions is a miracle.
I'll know Penn State did walk into Auburn and beat the piss out of Auburn. So that was cool.
Kentucky beat Youngstown State.
And I felt bad for you, Gooch, but I was all aboard the Cowboys train. Have I brought this up before that Cooper Rush and I went to high school together?
Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah, and college actually. That was that. The Lions aren't good, but they have good players.
No, they're better than people I think assumed they would be this year.
Dude, I started Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I started DeAndre Swift. It's an incredible weekend.
DeAndre Swift might, by the end of the year, be the best running back in football.
Dude, he's a beast.
That dude runs like a fucking animal, man. So that was nice. That was nice to see. Detroit needed that.
And Hutchinson 3 sacks, right?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yep.
Chargers lost on Thursday night, so you've had a few days to do that. I was in Cleveland. They gave up 14 points in 90 seconds. That was stupid. And the Bengals have a Super Bowl hangover. I mean, that's just it's unavoidable. You guys look awful.
The defense looks good. The offense looks fucking atrocious. We're definitely a little.
I mean, no offense to Chris's high school friend, but you lost to Cooper Rush. Like you guys look like
we're gonna work through this hangover.
No team does. That's not even a bad thing. Like only Tom Brady avoids Super Bowl hangovers. Even last year,
the silver lining is our division is not nearly as terrible as what we.
Every team, it was crazy.
The Ravens, I mean, to make another Michigan connection, Mike McDonald, who was Michigan's D coordinator last year, just got destroyed in the fourth quarter by Tua yesterday.
That was disgusting.
Yeah.
Dude,
that
game was very funny to watch, the Dolphins one, because Tua had those 2 bombs to Tyreek Hill, but on both of them, Tyreek Hill was like mid-sprint, had to basically come to a full stop to receive the pass because Tua just can't throw it that far.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. But Tua was balling.
I think that team's going to be better than people think.
I agree.
I like that coaching hire a lot.
Yeah, that was a massive collapse.
So cool on the sideline.
Yeah.
He used like those gold sunglasses. He was he's got to be the coolest coach in the NFL. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the LCB fans I saw at the Browns tailgate. A lot of them. That was cool. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. Game sucked ass, but so that was something. It was very hot too.
Did anyone tell you to watch The Boys?
No, nobody did. Nobody did. But my guy, Mike. Actually, Mike, way too tall. Mike.
Oh, wow, he's giant.
It's Big Mike. Very tall. He's like six. Like he's gotta be like 6'4".
That is a big Mike.
He has all the writings from the Ring on his arm from Lord of the Rings.
Dope.
Yeah, big Tolkien fan. So it was neat meeting him. You're way too.
I'm a big Tolkien fan too.
Tolkien, yes. You're way too. Mike, you're way too tall.
Did you guys watch the most recent season of South Park at all?
No, I haven't.
The first episode of the new season was they found Token, like the black kid on South Park. It turns out his name has been Tolkien the whole time, and his parents were just big Lord of the Rings fans. That was a really good bit.
Pretty funny.
He was actually very instrumental in the Lord of the Rings episode of South Park.
Yeah,
which is very funny. That was a great episode.
That's one of the like definitive episodes.
That and the World of Warcraft for me are like the 2 big ones.
That was like 10 year. It was about a 10-year window where every episode was like a 9 or 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Fuck, I gotta rewatch those.
So football, cool. Actually, we may have a collision course with myself and Chris in football in a few weeks. Michigan, Penn State. We'll see.
That's right.
Could have that.
Dude, you should come to the big house, man.
I would love to. I just spilled water all over myself.
And the Chargers play the Browns at some point. I forget what week.
Bengals play the Browns. Obviously, they're in the division.
A couple times. They'll probably lose both those.
They'll probably play twice.
Oh no! Now that Baker's gone, I feel
that's true. Baker doesn't own. He owns the Bengals.
I think half of Baker's career counting numbers came off the Bengals.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. I'm not even kidding. He put up 4 touchdowns every single game against us.
4-0.
That's crazy.
That's football. This episode, though, also brought to you by Roman. Roman, known for many products, but one of them being the Roman swipes. Convenient, over the cop.
Wow.
Get them from cops. Over-the-counter wipes that are clinically proven to help you last longer in bed. They're uniquely formulated wipes. Help reduce overstimulation. A 2019 study said they were proven to increase time to orgasm by more than 4 times. Can last longer with Roman. Remove the disposable swipe from a discreet pocket-sized pack. Wipe on the most sensitive parts of your penis. There you go. And allow it to dry for 5 minutes. You can get discreet unmarked packaging with this, by the way, but people see it. They just know you're a sex haver. So
it's a good thing.
That's sick.
I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't make him so discreet.
Me with my free condom from freshman year of college still in my wallet.
Roman swipes leave.
This is the worst one. Always too is like lifestyle or some shit. It was terrible.
They leave no scent or taste. Can't transfer to your partner. Safe, effective, no prescription needed. All swipes orders include free 2-day shipping as well. Try today for as little as $2.75 per swipe. Try swipes today with a special offer just for you. GetRoman.com/lights. GetRoman.com/lights. You get 20% off. GetRoman.com/lights. They also have Roman many more things as well, including hair loss treatment. My friend uses the hair. I won't say the person's name, but they use the hair loss treatment. They said it's been very nice. They don't have they're thinning out of the back of their head is not as bad. They don't have to worry about wind readings, where you position yourself in the wind a certain way if you have thin, balding hair. Yeah. I don't know.
Me out of this group.
I'm not sure that's a medical term. Are you like a wind readings guy when you're in the wind?
Nah.
You just let it fly?
I just let it fly. Everyone knows it looks like shit anyway, so just gotta own it.
So thank you to Roman, as always. Other note, I had a flight earlier, by the way. Unreal moment next to me. Guy next to me. First of all, he was also very tall. The flight attendant said the whole exit row spiel, like, are you willing and able to assist in case of whatever? And, you have to have the verbal, yep. Guy next to me, she goes, dead ass. And then they had one of the cleanest daps I've ever seen, and the guy walked away. It's like, what the fuck?
That's pretty cool.
I was like, holy shit.
It's pretty cool.
I was like, damn. So that's apparently allowed now. You can just say dead ass on a flight.
Forget about cut.
It was crazy.
Oh, God, Paul Walker.
Yes. It was nuts. Shows and movies and stuff.
Where are we starting?
Andor. We'll give it quick. We can't say too much about Andor because we're not going to spoil it for people. 3 episodes come out on the 21st. 3 episodes of Andor come out. Ken, Jack, and I have seen the first 4 episodes, which I kind of regret watching the 4th because it was like...
It was the start of a new arc.
The first 3, I will say... you need to watch all 3 at once.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad by themselves, but like it is very much a 90-minute arc.
Yeah.
Crazy different than anything we've gotten from Star Wars, and that includes Rogue One. I can't stress that enough. I hate that we actually describe so many Star Wars properties as being Star Wars like you've never seen before, because this actually is that. There are so few references and Easter eggs. There's only for like a few reasons do you even realize you're in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like the guns, there's one planet reference, like that's really it.
Yeah, they don't really talk much about anything outside of like their own little self-isolated world. They say like, yeah, it's the Emperor or the Empire or whatever, all that shit. But like, it's cool, very underworldy. Definitely production value mirrors Rogue One type of deal, which is cool because that was like one of the best parts about Rogue One. The characters are interesting. It's like a different side of, at least for Andor, like what we knew of him in Rogue One, very different type of character, obviously, as he grows into it. And the new ones that they established in the show were awesome. Super cool, including a lot of people like I recognize from other stuff. If that makes sense, like if you're a fan of Chernobyl or Rome or many other HBO shows, you're gonna recognize a lot of people as you watch it.
It is a very slow burn, and I mean that not in a negative, obviously. It's a lot of politics. But it's like not like
it's espionage politics.
It's not them just yelling at each other. And
Chris just had a
joy.
A face of just.
I mean, I don't know if you're gonna like this. If you don't like the fantasy shows, I don't know if you're gonna like this show. There are gonna be a lot of people who don't like Andor.
Yeah, but outside of the politics thing, everything you have said has actually gotten me more excited. And it's funny, you quote tweeted something somebody said where they were using the lack of Easter eggs as a complaint.
Yeah, Grace Randolph.
Grace Randolph.
Yeah. It's one of the lowest approval ratings on the internet, I feel like. But it's interesting to me because I like Rogue One. I think I might actually like Rogue One more than anyone else here. But so much of Rogue One is, Red Letter Media skewered it for it's X-Wing, Darth Vader, this planet, the Emperor, Grand Moff Tarkin. Like, I think that my hope is that Andor uses the template that Mandalorian uses, which is, every so often we're going to bring in a past character, but this is an isolated story. This is about a character that we hadn't heard of before. I have no problem with reintroducing other characters. Like the end of Mandalorian season 2, I thought was great, despite the weird CG on Luke. But I do think when you're talking about your main protagonist, it's really important to tell something that is different. So I'll see. I hope I enjoy this. I really do.
I think you'll like the stuff outside. The first 3 episodes are very, very self-contained outside of the political world for the most part. So I think you'll like those a lot.
It's very espionage politics, spy thriller type thing. There's a build up and climax with the 3rd episode that is just awesome.
Yeah,
like one of my favorite Star Wars scenes and things. And then we watch the beginning of kind of the next arc. I love this shit. I know there will be people who do not like it, but I think diehard Star Wars fans who aren't in it just for like the connections and all that shit are gonna really enjoy it.
Yep.
I was very. Somebody said I'm gonna be down bad if they don't announce a Fantastic Forecast and if Andor sucks. They didn't do the first, but I'm like very satisfied with what we saw with Andor. I loved it.
Are they dropping they're just doing episode 1?
No,
in the premiere, right?
All three, which is definitely. I will say it will definitely be needed because for the type of show they're releasing, I don't know. People would have reacted pretty adversely if they just would have dropped the first. Could have been like, ooh, we're gonna have to wait week by week. But they do drop basically a mini arc.
There would and enough establishment.
How many episodes are in the season?
I believe.
I think it's 12.
12.
I think it's 12. Yeah.
12,
It's a 24 episode arc. The 2 seasons. It's a 24 episode story.
Okay.
That's what they've said, yeah. So I'm very excited to talk about it next week, and I'm incredibly curious to hear who will and won't like it. And I know there will be a section of people who don't like it, and their reasonings, great. I don't give a shit about those. Like I'm going to be glad that there's other shit out there. This is like the cool Star Wars shit that I hope we get more of. So yeah, we'll see. She-Hulk episode 5. You a big fan now?
Nah, I didn't really like it. I didn't.
The one previous was better.
I thought it was just like
previous one was definitely better.
Boring, and then it was like, oh, there's the Daredevil helmet at the very end.
Yeah, you know what's the thing, and I've said this on the show before. I liked the idea of the first 3 episodes of her having to defend Blonsky in court. Now it's just like, wait, you getting your fucking perfume back? Like that was really the story of episode 5 was, like we're doing trademark shit. And I know this has been brought up a ton, and it's been ripped when the trailer came out. I can't get over how bad the CG is on She-Hulk, dude. Like it's rough. It is Scorpion King in The Mummy 2 bad. When it takes me out of the show when I watch it.
They use it in weird spots too, where it doesn't need to be used. Like you didn't need to write that into the story where she has to be She-Hulk in the office, because some of those scenes where she's just sitting at her desk, it's like, why are we doing this? Like, because she looks and she delivers lines well on her own. Like, I
don't think it's fixable. I really don't, and I think Corridor. The Corridor guys, when they did like their GFX breakdown of it, and they talked about it, and they said look, they're like this isn't awful CG, but there's a clear issue of the uncanny valley that Hulk doesn't have because of, and then they described it. It's like it's female features and male features, and said it just is not. It doesn't translate well, and it looks weird. And you can't fix that. You can't change.
There is a way to fix that, and it's to not be sexist and make She-Hulk massive and away from the canon. Again, make her actually
away from the
jacked.
canon.
Yeah, get away from like.
But that wouldn't impact like huge. Smile lines and stuff.
Make
her
look like Giga Chad.
Yeah, like literally, yes. Like make her entire face change.
So you're saying make her so ridiculous looking she doesn't look human? Yeah, okay, I get you. I see what you're saying.
I think that they've had a tough ask here, and it's been reported the CG artists at Marvel have had a rough go of things. I think you're right, Jeff. I don't know if it can ever really look good, but I have a hard time believing it can't look better. I mean, I know it's a different animal, but like this is the studio that made Thanos.
Yeah, I mean there were some scenes we talked about. The Office scene it just didn't look good. Like there really wasn't like.
Yeah, and there's bad CG and I don't even mean this as a negative. There's bad CG in pretty much every Marvel movie at some point. But it rarely ever takes me out of the movie or show. It does here. Like, it's just, it's so fake.
There was 2 things with this one that bothered me, not outside of the CGI. I think that they think Titania is way more established of a character than she actually is. Like, they feel like they skipped half of her introduction or whatever. She's just there. And the second is, like, I think that the whole superhero costume thing, like, with their rip-off Edna Mode, like, that could have been cool. But they just they flubbed that. I feel like that could have been like a very interesting like part of the Marvel world that we haven't really seen, like how they make all these suits and bullshit like that.
I mean, that was a cool thing in Daredevil. Yeah, Daredevil
exactly.
Season 2 was the what was his name? The cobbler.
He was the bald dude that which means he's obviously not coming back for when Daredevil reboots on.
That was awesome in Daredevil. The one line did get me during the episode when Jamila was just like, nice suit, Shrek.
Yeah, that was funny.
Like, a nice little throwaway line did make me laugh.
I'm curious how they're going to address Daredevil canon. They say Daredevil is going to be a reboot, though there's still people who are arguing it's not going to be. So, like, how are they going to introduce that? Where's he going to come into play? How many episodes is he going to be in? Some have said he's really not going to be in much till the end. There's apparently another villain that they're introducing.
How many episodes are there? Because that was
I think there's 3 more.
5. Okay. So they're limited on time.
Spoiler, close your ears. I think it's like Frogman. Which I kind of like. I kind of like Frogman, by the way. Like, I did look up Frogman. It's kind of a cool character. I hope they don't flub it, because I'm intrigued. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it ends.
Kermit.
They used Disney. They finally used that Disney IP.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see those feet.
Just fucking.
Hey Kevin, we made Frogman look a little more like Kermit. No, I said use Kermit.
Literally,
just use the puppet. The Emmys happened. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. I just
why were they were never on Monday night? Am I going nuts? When the fuck were they on Monday nights? Right.
They used to be Sunday, right?
What a horrible time to put that. I don't like. Just strange. Ted Lasso won Outstanding Comedy Series. Succession won Outstanding Drama Series. Fuck yeah. Cannot wait for that fucking show to come back.
Ted Lasso was a bit of surprise. I thought Barry would clean up.
Yeah, and I will say Abbott Elementary got a lot of. I need to start Abbott Elementary. I've been told it's very funny.
Yep, same.
It's very, very funny. White Lotus won Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series. That's not very surprising. Inventing Anna was nominated for that.
Better Call Saul stuff is wild. That stat.
46?
They've been 46 Emmys and haven't won a single one.
That is crazy. Jean Smart won for Hacks, lead actress in a comedy series.
She was so good.
Sudeikis won again for Ted Lasso. Drama series, Lee Jung Jae, is that how you say his name? Squid Game? I think I pronounced it right. He won for Squid Game. Zendaya won for Euphoria. for drama series. Outstanding lead actress Amanda Seyfried won for The Dropout. She was good. And then Michael Keaton won for Dope Sick. Shout out Michael Keaton.
That was like honestly the best performance out of any probably actor nominated. The entire Emmys.
The Michael Keaton come up continues. And then a couple other wins for Ted Lasso, Abbott Elementary, Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott Elementary.
Oh, the Kimmel thing, I forgot.
And then there was another issue with Abbott Elementary when Quinta Brunson, who is the writer for the show, one of the writers for the show, was on stage, and Jimmy Kimmel did like a bit where he was like dead or something, or he's asleep.
Yeah, that was so weird. I didn't really get what he was going.
It was because he had lost the best late night Emmy for like 13 years in a row, and so he came on stage with Will Arnett, where he pretended like he had just gotten really drunk because he'd lost the Emmy again, and then like fell asleep on stage.
Which, like, fine. The bit never goes after the winner. The bit usually ends.
Yeah.
Like award show bits usually stop after they go and here are the nominees, and then they're normal.
Yeah, that was a tough scene.
Yeah, it's like whatever. I mean, I don't think we're canceling Jimmy Kimmel over it, but also like
It was
like,
dumb.
dude. Like,
Listen.
You're being an asshole.
There's a certain screenshot that gets put out online from a previous Jimmy Kimmel show that hasn't canceled him yet.
Yeah, that's very true. Have you seen this, Chris? Oh my god.
Well, where he plays Karl Malone.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like double bad.
Yeah,
it is really wow. Yeah, that's like a really like a layered onion of badness.
And the fact that the voice he uses too is like, just, yeah.
Bring back the dude
It's like-
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Ted Danson.
So that's the Emmys. I don't give a fuck. Whatever.
Fuck Inventing Anna. And you know what? Fuck Shonda Rhimes in general, man. I've had to watch Grey's Anatomy for the last like 3 weeks because my girlfriend just constantly has it on the background. It is a heinously bad show. It is so bad, and it frustrates the fuck out of me. And you see all the stuff I carry over into Inventing Anna. And that
You know what I don't like about the Emmys now? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, was it always that bad though, or was there a time where it was like a legitimately
Grey's?
Like, well,
I think the first few seasons are considered critically.
Dude, they're batshit crazy. There's an episode where a guy comes in with a fucking bazooka round lodged in his chest, and it blows up in the hospital, and everyone just goes back to work the next day. Like, it's just fucking... it's crazy.
Have you seen that show 911? How every week there's a tornado or an earthquake in the middle of Los Angeles? It's fucking hilarious.
Jesus Christ.
No, but I don't like how shows can split themselves. Like, a single season can split itself on the dates. So, like, Better Call Saul and Stranger Things both, they can be nominated this year, and their back half of their seasons can be nominated next year.
Interesting.
So
that is.
I don't love that.
Yeah. They award show rules are always so fucking weird. We'll talk about one now. Damien Chazelle's Babylon first trailer. Margot Robbie, Diego Calva, Brad Pitt, Tobey Maguire, Gene Smart. Limited release on Christmas, goes wide in January. That's what I mentioned. It's release windows are weird for award season, and this is like coming out in like the last second it can possibly come out, just so it can get Oscar buzz and hype. Synopsis of the movie for those who don't know or may not remember: young Mexican American actor Manny Torres pursues a career in 1920s Hollywood, starting as that's not a full fucking synopsis. What the fuck is that? It's set during Hollywood's transition from silent films to the old talkies. Bad name. In retrospective, talkies was a bad name.
Bad idea.
Lot more people in this as well, though. Some just familiar names and faces that are going to apparently have some roles.
Margot Robbie eat hot chip.
Catherine
at the talkies.
Catherine Waterston, Flea. Olivia Wilde, Spike Jones. I mean this has a lot of fun pizzazz and pop to it. I know First Man. I liked First Man, but I know people. I think there wasn't. It was very not somber. I don't know what the right word is. It was very somber. The right word.
I mean, it's just slow. It really.
I think the word I used the other week is a little tedious. Like I think the movie drags just a bit.
Yeah, but even. Yeah, like but there's a different feel to this already that feels a little more in line with La La Land and Whiplash. That I think might have missing for some people who thought that's what we would get with First Man from Damien Chazelle. I like the trailer. I mean, I'm excited for this. It's kind of hard to say no to Giselle at this point.
That sweeping shot through the party that it kind of opens up with and then the jazz kicks in, and then it comes from director Damien Chazelle. That was really cool. It's firmly my number one for the rest of the year now. After that trailer, I'm very excited for it now.
I was tweeting about it, and I was saying, like, I'm kind of getting shades of, like, Great Gatsby watching this, which someone responded to me.
Very much Great
Someone
Gatsby.
responded to me saying, this looks like a Baz Luhrmann movie if it was good.
It did. I was going to say this has a Baz Luhrmann feel.
Very Bazzy feel.
A lot of parties.
A lot of, like, weird, like, psycho sort of energy to it.
When was Great Gatsby set?
It was like around the same time.
Yeah, so the time period is definitely...
Yeah, it matches up, yeah.
Yeah.
Right after World War One.
West
No,
End.
I'm with you guys completely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and Tobey Maguire's in both as well, which is kind of crazy the more I think about it.
That's right, yeah. I'm so excited. I think this is an amazing trailer. And it's so seeped in his style. But the one thing that I got to point to about this as well is like it's so well documented. Margot Robbie's like the hottest thing that ever lived, but man, she is one of the best actresses working.
She does rock really good.
She commits to everything, and you see this this could be because she's been nominated twice. She was so great in I, Tonya, and I think you could argue maybe could have won that year. This might be like, if there's anything I would put money on for this Oscar season, her for Best Actress. Just watching this trailer could be a legitimate thing.
And speaking of, I heard that Amsterdam stinks.
Really?
That doesn't surprise me. I've seen that kind of chatter going too.
Yeah, I heard it's stinky, real stinker.
Wow. Well, what was his last movie? What was Russell's last? Was it Joy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
I'm a Joy defender. The Mott movie.
Ugh.
I was not a big. I'm not gonna say I wasn't a big fan of it, but American Hustle to me was like one of the great disappointing Oscar-rated movies. Like where I thought it was gonna be so good, and it was just. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
I do like The Fighter a lot though.
Apparently, Blonde is kind of stinky.
Yeah, I've heard them.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, we called that.
Have you read any of the reviews, like what actually happens in the movie?
Yeah, I heard this is like
pretty fucking. This movie is gonna be insane. From what I've read about it, like the scenes that are in it, yeah, it's.
We won't review that until it's out on Netfllix. It's out on Netflix at the end of the month.
Heard some I think you probably heard the same things I did. Who was it? Ehrlich's review of it or whatever. He's like, if it definitely shattered my expectations in that I didn't think you could possibly put more than one scene of a fetus's point of view into a movie. And I was like, what the fuck is that more to re-in for right now? I can't wait.
Oh my god. Anyway, so Babylon, The Woman King also, by the way, apparently very good.
Heard it was awesome. It got an A+ on Metacritic. It was crazy.
Yeah,
A+ on Metacritic? You mean Cinema Score, right?
95% critics.
They interview people coming out of the theater.
95% critics, 99% audience. We will probably do that next week with Pearl.
Yep.
So plan for Pearl and The Woman King next week, both in theaters. MaXXXine, speaking of Pearl, the third movie in Ty West's X franchise, starring Mia Goth. We don't know much about this. He talks very little about it in our interview. He said, do not expect this anytime soon. I thought this might mean it was coming out kind of soon. He said it's not coming out at the end of the year or anything. So we talked about this a little with him in our interview, but definitely go check out Pearl. If you have not seen X, watch X. It doesn't matter the order you see them at all.
Yeah.
Pearl is a prequel to X, but I'll give you a little tease. X, and I guess I'm just telling you what he tells us, but X was a pretty classic horror. In terms of style, I don't mean in terms of what the movie was, but in terms of style,
very Texas Chainsaw.
Pearl was very Texas Chainsaw, classic style of movie. This is a Technicolor Pearl, an old Technicolor Wizard of Oz-esque, the way it looks and plays out, very different. We loved Pearl, and then
it's closer to an Ari Aster movie almost.
Yeah, and then he said MaXXXine will be a much different vibe as well from that, very 80s Hollywood. So I'm excited for this. Not much on the tease. It just shows the Hollywood sign, but it says MaXXXine. So yeah, looking forward to that. Netflix released the first trailer for the Redeem Team documentary, the 2008 USA men's national basketball team that won gold after stinking ass in Athens 4 years prior. I hope this is good. This team ruled. They just beat the snot out of basically everybody but Spain.
Kind of get not slept on, but it's everyone when they talk about U.S. men's Olympic teams, they talk about the Dream Team. But this, team
I say this team's better. I always say I think
they would have smacked them. I'm with you.
This team's an easier compare. I think the 2012 team might have actually been better because they were more dominant
It was
and
prime LeBron. Too.
different. It was prime LeBron. You had KD, Russ, and Harden.
Melo was
Anthony Davis before he played an NBA game. Funny enough, because Blake Griffin hurt himself.
Yep.
Melo was peak Olympic Melo, unstoppable. But that's a different type of team, and I think that's like the 3-point era team, and where this 2008 team I think was a little more similar in terms of makeup and what they did to the Dream Team. This team was so fucking good, just so good.
I really, one thing that gets slept on why I'm so excited about this. One, I mean, I think there's going to be such a huge Kobe focus, and just like I love. I never like adored him when he played, but I just love the stories of him, and I mean this with so much respect. Just him being a complete psycho, just in terms of his work ethic and his leadership and just wanting to win. Well, I think one of the reasons why I like LeBron, I like Wade, is that these guys are actually they're pretty good storytellers on their own. Like they're so detail oriented when it comes to the sport of basketball that I feel like we're going to get some really interesting insight. And it was also, I think, what makes the 08 team unique as well is that it was before the era of the super team. So like it was kind of you could argue it was like the inception of that idea of what if.
Yeah, I mean,
people say that this is what caused.
Bosh, Wade, and LeBron.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of really unique angles that you can go out with this, and it's from the guys who did the Last Dance, which was which is brilliant. So
they talk about Kobe being the linchpin in the trailer and like needing like that kind of senior leadership. Coach K taking over, and I hope they dive into the 04 team was so fucked with such a disaster. I hope they talk about that, which seems like they will. That'll be neat. First look at David Harbour as Santa Claus in the action thriller Violent Night. The film will follow Santa working to save a kidnapped family from a gang of mercenaries on Christmas Eve. It comes out in December.
But they already did this with that Mel Gibson Fat Man movie. They did this 2 years ago.
That's my
stinks.
quota.
This
if I do a bad job,
they gotta pay me that much.
Whatever, dude. This is just an eye roll.
Harper's agent needs to get fired. Like, he's just been putting back to back to back. The only good thing he ever did for David Harbour was getting him in Stranger Things. That was it.
Yeah,
I
liked him in Black Widow.
Hear me out.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see Harbour again in Marvel. But this is like
we haven't seen a trailer yet. This could be funny. It could be funny.
It could be funny.
It really depends on how it's directed. Like because it could be a complete disaster. But we'll see.
I mean,
it is but like over the top, like detective.
What do you
for?
Yeah, literally.
That's such a pie in the sky hope from you right now.
It could happen though.
Yeah, I hope it's like Crank. I hope it's like Santa Crank. Like I just hope it's exploitation, blood and gut.
He's snorting snow.
Crashmore is I think one of the more underrated Tim Robinson sketches.
It was
sort of
very
a cosmic
good.
gumbo.
Just
like that dude being in Everything Ever All at Once is crazy.
And AOL Plus, AOL Blast.
Yeah. That's why no one listens to AOL Blast.
I think like we may be biased because like we do the junkets now and then, and it's just so much funnier to me like having like been in that world a little bit. Just the fact that he gets so mad at the junket.
Yep.
It's just why no one listens. Yeah, that kills
I've seen
me.
every cock in the world. It's just, it's so good.
If they have a tattoo,
you gotta check if they have a tattoo. They don't get a gift that year.
Certainly not good. Yeah. What do you say? It's not.
It's like, you think having a tattoo is good or something like that. It was so funny.
It's not good behavior. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, that's your expectation. If there's no shot this movie hits that, I mean, I don't know.
It would be very funny though.
A sequel to Constantine in development award. Kenjack, I know you're excited about this. Keanu Reeves will come back.
I love Constantine. I think Constantine's a very underappreciated movie, and I also think that Peter Stormare he's the best on-screen Lucifer. I think he was perfect.
You said that before. Yeah.
So goddamn
better than
good.
The Hot Lucifer.
Significantly better than Netflix Hot Lucifer. Yeah, because also Peter Stormare is a hot Lucifer himself in his own way.
Fair.
But he needs to be back. That may be a big thing. Obviously, Keanu is back with this. I'm a little bit not skeeved out, but like the last time we saw Keanu without a beard, it was really weird in that Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
It was like really bizarre to see him without a beard. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. But outside of that,
give him a beard though.
Yeah, I mean they definitely can, especially because
you can change how he looks. I mean, he's supposed to have blonde hair, so
that's
they
true.
can make him look however they want.
There were a lot of differences between the Constantine source material in the movie.
Was there CW
Constantine? Massive differences. Right? Yeah, there was for like 2 seasons.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, was it yeah. But it's like you can't do Constantine on TV. You clip the balls off the character if you do CW. So yeah, we'll see with this.
I really wanted Constantine to be British. Nothing against Keanu. I just
British Constantine.
Yeah, like we don't have any like really British superhero stuff, like super Cockney ass like.
Good point.
You can get there.
Yeah.
He's great in the animated movies. The Constantine character, like Justice League Dark, like he's an awesome character. Like he's just like a drunk Englishman. Like
I feel like visually there's so many unique things that you can do with that character as well when you're talking about the afterlife and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully it works.
Speaking of British people, I started Love Island the other day. English people are just disgusting to look at. They are just despicable people. Like just looking at their faces makes you want to fucking barf. And like it's fine. Like everywhere has like hot people. I would assume with Love Island they would get the hottest people. It just
they all look like what
women
people in America looked like in 2010. Like they all have fake tans and they're very strange looking on Love Island.
Bizarre humans.
He's proper fit, isn't he?
I mean, like that's like what British people think of us. Like they think we're just like fat losers or whatever, and like to an extent they're right. But god damn, are they ugly? Just Christ.
Not the big unit. The big unit was
except for the big unit.
He's at the Queen's funeral today.
So, yeah, he is.
I was saying, can you imagine? Like we're talking, or at least I'm talking shit about English people right now. The turnaround for publicity England would have if the Queen just left the big unit the throne.
For what?
If he was the king, if he was the king of England, the big unit, everyone would love England. I feel like we would all want to be part of the fucking British Empire again because you'd just be like, I want to be. He's
so lovable and soft and plushy though. I feel like Wales would invade tomorrow and have control of the country.
They wouldn't want to because he's too nice. He's just like so pleasant to look at. They're not gonna hold him hostage or something. I love him so much. He's the best.
Dude, we did the domesticated animals we wish we could domesticate on the bracket on Thursday. If Big Unit was on the bracket,
yeah. He is just like a wild bear.
Because our criteria just ended up becoming which animal do we want to chill with and just cuddle with. And
go to
Big
a club
Unit
with.
would absolutely just taking the Big Unit to the club.
They would like everything we talked about with the gorilla. It would have happened with the Big Unit. You're just wearing sunglasses and a cool ass shirt.
How did we get here?
Love Island.
Live action Blade Runner. By the way, that show, Love Island, they significantly tone it down throughout the seasons. It's like
it gets
it's almost X-rated, like off the top.
I was gonna say because like it's cool kind of because like watching it, and I think this first season is 2017.
They chill out on it a little bit. I think when it gets a little more mainstream, like it's not quite because in the beginning it's like what the fuck, holy shit, like this is almost. It's like softcore porn.
Yeah.
I like the host. What was her name?
I forget.
Caroline.
Yeah.
The host and the narrator of the British one are so much better than the American one. I think that's when the American one just hasn't caught like the British one has. Live action Blade Runner 2049 sequel series in development at Amazon Prime Video. Executive produced by Ridley Scott. That's based on Rings of Power so far, like cool. I hope.
Yeah, like I think it visually, like you at least have to have some confidence that Amazon will give it the resources it needs to look.
And that's such an important.
Not having Deacons, obviously, it's not going to look as good as Blade Runner 2049, but I think they're going to have the tools that they need to make it look as good as possible.
And that one needs to that has to look good. Like it has to have that. Like the look is such an important factor in why 2049 worked, but we'll see.
I started there's a cyberpunk anime that they put on Netflix.
Yeah,
it fucking rocks.
I watched it the whole way through. Which episode are you in?
Like 3, I think right now.
Okay, there's a time jump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, it rocks. It's literally gaslighting me into thinking that like I should have to go get Cyberpunk again. Like it's making me think like, oh, the game is pretty good.
It's a good anime for people who don't really watch anime too.
That too, for sure. Because
thematically it doesn't fall into like a lot of the weird shit that some animes do.
And finally, just regular news. How do you say his name?
Reggie Jean.
Or Jean.
Reggie Jean.
Is it just Paige?
Yeah.
It should be. Is she Paget, right? And Glenn Powell have been cast in the series remake loosely based on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Few details about the Prime Video series are known, except that it will take place in an alternate America. I don't. That's like.
I threw this in here because I don't understand why they attach it to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. If like the plot details do not it sounds like it's not going to be Butch Cassidy.
This just sounds like something that would have been talked about at that fucking investor meeting from Warner Brothers, where it's like they're just saying words like buzzwords.
I don't get. I like both those actors, but you're just setting them up for failure when you compare them to Paul Newman and Robert Redford.
I think these projects spawned from the actors. I don't believe that there was a script for a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids reboot. Yeah. They just said, let's get two guys that people like. Okay, the guy from it's Bridgerton, right? With Riverton, and get Hangman from Top Gun. And what can we put them in? What project can we give them? Somebody's pulled a Butch Cassidy idea out of their ass. And look, maybe it's good. I do like both these guys. I mean, Glenn Powell was really good in Top Gun. I mean, he was a cliche character, but he made it work. So I bet they might have some chemistry. But it's just one of those Hollywood things.
Get Glenn Beck instead. Throw Glenn Beck in there with Renee, and then we'll see what we can do with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And by the way, the actors themselves are setting themselves up for failure if they accept a role like that, because no matter what, you are going to get shit on. So you should never in a million years accept a role like that.
I'm just curious if that's like a thing where they're saying, oh, it's just say it's like based on that, so it sounds like we have like existing property or something.
Yeah, I don't know, like because if you just said they're going to star in a Western together, like with an alternate history of America, I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like a cool project. Then you have to say Butch Cassidy. I'm like, well, it's not going to be Butch Cassidy. Like,
yeah.
I feel like Hollywood falls into that trap where I think they're so afraid of coming up with something that's original that they feel a need to connect it to something else. Like the prime example of that to me is I really love 10 Cloverfield Lane, but there's no reason for it to be a Cloverfield movie. Yeah, none at all. And it wasn't. It wasn't. But they were like, oh, shit, is this going to appeal to people? I don't know if this is going to work. Well, just throw in some aliens at the end, and we could call it a Cloverfield movie. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of run into that issue sometimes where they aren't willing to let things stand on their own. But we'll see. Hopefully it's written well.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it.
And I guess that's it on news. This episode of Lights, Camera, Barstool is brought to you by 3Chi. Days of long road trips to states that sell these things, and dispensaries are over, folks. Get them delivered right to you from 3Chi. It offers premium THC products that get delivered straight to your door, including dispensary-grade Delta 9 THC with the same effects as traditional marijuana, attempt-derived, making it federally legal and much easier to get your hands on. The best part? 3Chi is giving Barstool listeners an exclusive 5% off all products. Use code STOOL5, STOOL, the number 5, don't spell it out, just the number 5, at 3Chi, the number 3CHI.com, and experience cannabis perfected. Now must be 21 to purchase. Delicious products too, by the way.
Very good.
Yeah. And remember, this will get you high. This is not just like CBD. Just a warning on that. House of the Dragon. The latest episode, the 4th episode, which seems impossible. It seems like we've had like more than 4 episodes. I actually thought that was a typo. It's not. It's not, right? It was 4 episodes.
Yeah, 4. That was the 4th.
That was the.
Was it the 5th? It was the 5th, right?
This is the 5th. It was the 5th episode.
Okay, 5th.
Oh, you're right, because I remember the last time when we tweeted about the thing, she was like, Renee.
Okay, 5th. All right, I was going crazy. Talking about that. 5th episode of House of the Dragon. I have one random thought at the end, but thoughts from the main Game of Thrones boys. What did you think? And we have 2 questions that I'll toss out here.
I'm not that into the series versus Rings of Power. I'm watching the show and I'm just like, it's hitting the familiar beats, but I'm just like, I'm not that it's losing its grasp on me. I'm not saying it's bad or something.
It's definitely good. But
I'm just like not as gripped as at least Thrones did in the first few seasons or anything like that. But like, this has just been sort of like a slow burn, and just I'm not really that into it. I don't know. I don't explain it. Like, and not saying it's a bad show or something. It hasn't gripped me the way I really wanted it to.
I will definitely agree that it has lost steam after its first episode. I thought that first episode was a great pilot.
Yeah,
which is always a mark of a good series. Like, if you can have a good pilot, you're pretty much set for season 1. But it's still better for me than Rings of Power. I like them both quite a bit, just because I really love fantasy and they're executing in different ways within the genre. I just feel like we just set the table. So the table's been set for the rest of the season, the rest of the series. Because now we have, after this episode, and this isn't a spoiler, just so you guys know, there is going to be a big time jump from here. And we jump to the new actresses for Hightower, Elyson, and Rhaenyra.
Elyson and Rhaenyra, which I needed.
Olivia Cook and
I'll make my note. I had
Darcy.
No idea Allison's actress, was 19 years old. Because I looked it up. I was like, man, that's weird that they're gonna have Olivia Cook, who's definitely younger than this girl, play the older version. I was like, what the fuck?
That casting looks.
They look very similar.
They look very
Crazy.
good.
Great casting.
I had no idea that girl was 19 years old.
She played, also weirdly enough, she played the young version of Wonder Woman.
Did she really?
In the original Wonder Woman movie. Yep.
Oh, that's
she's done that twice now, where she played the younger version of a character.
That's kind of cool.
But yeah, no, they nailed it. I'm happy that they did so well. It sounds like they're gonna try and maybe work them in to future seasons with flashbacks. I don't feel like they necessarily need to. Yeah, no, they knocked their roles out of the park. I can't wait to see what they do next. Episode I thought was really a lot better than the previous episode in terms of how it was paced and just overall like enjoyment factor. The wedding. Anytime you get a wedding in Game of Thrones, you know some shit's you know some shit's about to go down. Oh, Kristen Cole,
Dumbass.
What are we, head ass?
Yeah.
God, he was so. What do they say? He's cunt struck.
Like yeah. I
struck.
forgot you say that in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was. He went crazy for the pussy. He killed. I mean, that guy's face looked like
Hate
meatloaf.
crime.
His face was disgusting.
Looked like
Classic Game of Thrones, just gross fucking.
yeah. Like you didn't even need to show
Like
it.
ground
you didn't
beef.
need to show it.
Yeah, it
But you
is.
showed
Awesome.
it anyway.
That was a great scene.
I did quite like that whole ending, but mostly where Damon comes into. Actually, I would say both of them, where Allison and Damon both come into the reception.
Yes, when she comes in and she decides I'm finally I'm gonna be the queen.
I just love that like Viserys, like his look when Damon comes back in is it's a badass scene. First of all, he like Matt Smith rolled great job by Matt Smith. He rolled in like a fucking baller into that scene. But then like his face too when
wearing a nice quarter zip.
yeah when his haircut is very fun. That's a haircut I don't believe anyone in that time period would have. By the way,
He has like what's her Bran of Tarth's haircut. Like,
He just like the haircut is so nice. Like him just like doing his hair in the mirror to me is very. I don't know why. It's just very.
I
funny
like
to me.
both these shows, but neither of these shows has necessarily figured out the haircut situation.
He has some bad
Like-
wigs. The guy who plays
Celebrimbor?
Laner.
Laner. Yeah,
Laner's wig is rough. that is a tough one.
So I did think that was her showing up in the green. Like I do think that was that whole ending scene was
She looked
awesome.
like Fiona from Shrek.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Literally, she wearing a green dress
Was
with red hair.
Fiona trying to declare war in Shrek?
Yeah.
Are we not aware of that?
Actually, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit.
Happily ever after.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I thought it was a good episode. I'm not. I don't know. It's. I hate doing the comparison because like I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, but
I think also with Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
it's for us, we're not that far removed from Game of Thrones. We're pretty well removed from good Lord of the Rings content, which is why I think there's just definitely a little bit of, not rose-colored glasses, whatever it be. Like, we're looking at it a little bit of a different lens. Again, you see that shit is so cool with Lord of the Rings, but we're not that far removed from Game of Thrones greatness, and I think that's maybe why it's, I don't know, I'm looking for something a little bit more.
this is going to be interesting because you have. I mean, I guess you lose Paddy Constantine as Seraph, right?
That's
Like,
a
he's out.
sickly motherfucker.
Let's talk about him. He's dying.
He's
he's got the suds.
Yeah, literally.
He's dead, right? Like he's not coming. Is he done for this? Like
He's
I
in the
actually
next
don't-
episode.
Okay.
And they age him up, and he looked old as fuck.
He
Okay.
looks so gross in the previews for the next episode.
See, I didn't see that. So okay, I didn't see the preview. So I mean, the big thing about this next set of episodes, which is how many left? There's 5 left. So they're halfway through. The big thing is like, I mean, the shoes to fill for Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook are huge. Now
Yeah,
that
that's-
Millie
that's-
Alcock and Emily Carey, that's the actress who plays Allison's name. Like it's gonna be very interesting to see how this show moves along. I like Olivia Cook a lot. I think she's a great
Yeah.
actress. I've
She was
always
so great. She was so great in Sound of Metal.
Amazing.
Thoroughbreds, great movie. I love Thoroughbreds.
Yeah,
so she's a good actress. So I'm not concerned about that. But it is like that's a big thing now. You have people love this show. They love the characters, and they're very integral parts. And now you have a jump, and you have completely different people in those roles. I mean, I don't think unprecedented is the right word, but it's definitely a big like hold your breath. Let's see how this goes now, especially for a franchise that is known for having people get very upset at it.
Yes. The image from this whole series that has struck me the most is the one of Millie Alcock and the guy who plays Kristen Cole smoking the cigarettes, just chilling.
Oh yeah, I posted that.
That's an all-time great
like
Game of Thrones
absolute
image.
lads.
Yeah, I mean that stuff rocks. I mean, I do think that obviously now that like you're saying the table set, we're going to be into more action after the time jump and the succession, because that's what this is all like. It's all leading towards the actual death of the king and succession of the throne and the battle of that and all that. But I don't know. I'm waiting for it. That's all I can say. I'm just really waiting for that moment.
Samurai Mike from Discord said if House Hightower goes to war against the Targaryens and the Valerians, who are the potential allies for them? Also noted mismatch on paper.
It's different because the power of the houses is so different now than versus in Game of Thrones. Like different houses are in power, other ones aren't. Like, you know, so it's different. Hard to say.
Yeah, and her dad's no longer the hand of the king, so he doesn't have nearly as much political power. So I mean, I don't really know who the fuck their allies would be. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not like anywhere close because the Valerians are just they're bankrolling this whole universe right now.
Yeah.
So it's like tough to even imagine anyone's gonna be able to stand up to them.
Yeah.
And they don't have dragons. I mean, that's honestly the big thing. No dragons.
Yep.
The dragons, they got like 20 of these things. What is it, 17 dragons?
They have a lot of dragons.
Yeah.
The ship scene was cool. All the ships rolling up with the dragons. Mm-hmm. Thought that was neat.
But I did notice something. Because of how good Rings of Power has looked, I was like, this doesn't look that great.
Yeah, no, it's by comparison, it's crazy.
I was like,
that was one of my complaints, even from the first episode, was like for a show called House of the Dragon, the dragons are, they were good for a TV show, but that's a really good point, Gooch, because I think like Rings of Power is a movie quality production.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I don't know, it's a little rough around the edges.
And it's significantly more expensive than Game of Thrones, and like so far the CG hasn't really lived up to that.
Yeah, I wonder how that cost comes into play, because it definitely doesn't look like they're spending it on production.
The what do you call it? The scene where they're having the conversation, Cole and
I'm not, just so we're clear, I'm not saying it looks bad. It still looks great.
Just by comparison, it's
just like Rings of Power. Like they signed Kirk Cousins to a massive contract, and they've reset the market on what visuals can look like.
Yeah.
So it's like it's tough.
There's a scene where they're talking on the boat, and it is so like painfully green screen in the background. Like you can almost see like their hair bounced up against it.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see the one green screen fuck up that they had in like episode 3?
No, what was it?
I don't know what they had to green screen.
Oh,
on.
it was his fingers.
Yeah, he had like green
he had
green like things on his fingers
because they were cut
they
off.
had forgot, and there was also a text tone in the background. They forgot to get. Someone got.
Oh, really? They got picked up somebody's phone doing.
Yeah, I don't know how that one slides. Like some stuff, I don't understand how it slides through.
Well, didn't that in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, in like the background of one scene, you see it like a production member on his cell phone, just like walking behind Johnny Depp.
One of my favorite one of those is the guy in Gladiator that just walks by in the jeans.
Yes, the jeans guy.
The jeans.
Jeans guy rules.
Yeah.
Jeans guy and Gladiators. Yeah, that's an all time.
They had one in. They had one in. Mando season 2, didn't they? Was it Mando or was it Book of Boba Fett?
Wasn't it Mando where they had, or no, maybe it was Game of Thrones. They had a Starbucks cup.
Yeah, Game of Thrones had a Starbucks.
Mando had somebody in the background.
Yeah, Mando had just said like just some. I don't really understand how that stuff gets through when you have it passing through so many hands.
Editing so many frames and especially with the computer CGI work done in the backgrounds of shit too.
That's the thing. You're paying so much attention to the foreground that I'm sure there's going to be stuff in the background you're going to miss.
And again, with Thrones, like it's not like the CG is bad. It's just watching this alongside at the same time as Lord of the Rings. That's
the big thing. But then you watch She-Hulk and you're like, oh yeah, no, it looks great.
Exactly.
Lord of the Rings of Power, episode 4, The Great Wave. This is a big Numenor episode.
Yes, sir.
Clearly, there is the wheels are in motion for the spoiler alert if you haven't watched the episode, by the way, for the Numenorians to go over, and as in canon and lore, they are going to make the eventual Sauron bow to them.
Yeah, they go to Mordor and Sauron immediately surrenders, and then he goes back with them and corrupts them into wanting to invade Arda and destroy and like basically to gain immortality. Specifically, that Beardo guy who's the Queen's uncle, and you can even tell like he's got the evil seeds in him.
Pharazôn,
yeah, right? Al Pharazôn. You're gonna see that come into play real quick. And again, in canon, he marries her, forcibly marries her so that he can be king. So I'm curious to see where that goes, especially after meeting, I think was his name Tar Palantir, the actual king of Numenor. So I don't know. I'm very interested. I think this is an awesome ass episode. Not as good as the last one, I would say, but
oh really?
Oh, see, I
thought this is the best one yet.
I was in between. I think that it looked, obviously it just as incredible as the other ones, especially seeing like the Doom of Numenor. That looked like the water detail on all this shit was insanely good. A lot of the scenes in it I thought were really really interesting. That makes sense.
Yes.
The only thing is, I really just hate this kid Theo. I hate this motherfucker so much. I can't wait to see him die.
Keep going. Then I'll.
Oh, and then just the introduction of Adar was cool. I thought he was a good that actor. Agent Stark. You did a really good job.
So the Numenorian storyline here is mostly you get the like I said, the seeds of the eventual takeover by Pharazôn at some point, which it seems to maybe going to happen whenever they're away. The Queen Regent, what is her name? I keep forgetting.
That's something with an M. I forget.
It's Muriel, yes. Yeah. Which I did. By the way, Nerd of the Rings had a great callback that the way when Galadriel's talking to Muriel and she says like something like Regent, which is exactly kind of what Gandalf says
to Denethor. Yeah.
Yes, when he calls him
it's like Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart. Yeah, which I thought that was a nice. Which I don't know if that was intentional, but it sure seems like it. And that was a nice little callback there to Return of the King.
Great scene after that too, and that dude just the guy who plays Denethor, John Noble, I think is his name. He's like, Gondor's mine.
Him eating too.
Down. Oh, the tomato scene is an all-time great Lord of the Rings scene.
It's just dripping down his fucking chin. Yeah. And then you see Isildur gets kicked out of the Naval Academy.
Yep. So they're all going to sail to
bad kid.
Middle Earth eventually to escape the doom. So
right, which then in the end, Elendil calls out for volunteers. After going back and forth, Galadriel with Muriel a lot. We see the leaves fall from the tree, and that signifies Muriel's like, all right, shit,
really
we
cool.
need to, we need to. As they were sending Galadriel away, because she did get thrown into the clanker, she's like, shit, I basically like this is a sign that it's our calling and time to link back up with the elves and go to the Southlands and go to Middle Earth.
Mortal kin or whatever they said. That scene with the leaves where they pan up and you kind of track it, that was insanely good.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
Great. Look real. Like it's insane.
I like that dialogue a lot between Halbrand and Galadriel when they're in jail, because Halbrand, I think, is becoming the more interesting storyline. Like he could be anyone at this point.
He is giving off major Sauron vibes.
Like when he was like, what was his line about like giving into like. What was it? I had to have to look it up, but just things he was saying, just like to borrow
very manipulative.
To borrow from Clem, he's on the top of the sus list.
Yeah, he seems very manipulative. He's saying things, and things are happening the way you would seem to think he'd want them to go.
Yes,
Galadriel's very adamant that he is the
king.
He's the heir to the King of the Southlands. Disgraced. I still think he's the father of Theo. I'm on the he is Sauron wagon right now.
I think just that would be an interesting twist for them if they wanted to make it like, hey, when Muriel's away in Middle Earth, maybe he corrupts Al-Pharazôn while he's in jail there. But I have a feeling like he's just not going to sit in jail that whole time. He's going to go with them.
He says some shit to him too when Galadriel kind of attacks in the jail. He kind of tells him to like, no, like,
but. Like, I feel like we would have gotten like some sort of other hint at this point that he was, and like we really haven't. I do think that they're going to introduce him, and it will be like a bigger, more important moment. I do think this guy's going to end up being a Nazgul before the series ends.
Most likely still the Witch King. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's not good. There's no way he's a good person.
I think he's going to get corrupted by the ring, and I think that's going to be the big challenge for Galadriel. Is like, hey, I need to essentially kill this guy or fight this guy that I'm friends with and I did all this stuff with, and now he's like a bad dude. It stinks.
Some people think we did see Narsil too. The sword was behind Galadriel at one point when she was kind of towards the top of the tower in Numenor.
Yeah.
Obviously the incredibly important sword from The Lord of the Rings. So that was kind of the storyline there. Again, Isildur is going to go over with his buddies to Middle Earth and the Southlands, and going to join that effort of the war. So that's kind of kicked in motion. We meet Adar.
Yep.
Sick looking villain.
Yeah, he was cool. That opening scene where he puts down the orc and is like crying over it, like that was cool. That was a good ass scene.
Tells Arondir to go back to his old watchtower and warn and basically send a message.
Yeah.
Which he does. He also saves Theo. Theo goes back into town with his buddy. His buddy
stinks.
His buddy's looking not great.
The worst.
Well, his buddy got cut by the hilt too. Got cut by what seems to be some sort of
cursed sword.
He's looking bad. He's looking really not good. And then I thought the orc stuff was great. Again, all the orc shit's been awesome.
They're rock. That whole scene where they chased him through the forest and then like had to stop on the when the sun break happened. Like that's so cool.
Andrew had a 6 slow motion catch of an arrow.
That was pretty cool.
I do not like the slow motion. And
Some people said there was too much.
The one complaint I have about the show outside of the wigs is the slow motion.
Only with really his fights though, with
the elephant fights.
Yeah,
is it to like slow down, maybe to like show how I don't know.
Yeah. It's like a once every few episodes kind of thing you should be using, not like multiple times in one episode, because then it becomes you're like watching a Guy Ritchie Aladdin movie.
Just like you're watching a Zack Snyder movie.
So the orcs are clearly looking for the hilt, the sword, which Theo uses by piercing his skin, and the blood runs up it, and it becomes a full sword. And then we find out that the butcher guy from the town also used to use that sword because he shows the scars he has, and he is clearly a big time Sauron guy.
Do you know his name?
Yeah.
Do you know Sauron?
That
was a cool one.
Yeah, he's like he's coming, or like this. He's not saying he's like the sign is here that he is on his way or he's here.
Irondeer does say like right when they talk about that town, I forget the name of it. He's like, yeah, your whole town used to be Sauron or Morgoth supporters, and like that's what that all those men used to be super corrupted and fight for Morgoth, and by proxy, I guess Sauron as well.
So that's kind of the setup there. Clearly, that town is very corrupt, and there is a connection. I don't know what the connection is to Halbrand or any, but like I still think there's something there with the mother and Theo, and then the dwarves have found Mithril, which is kind of a neat.
Yeah,
which is
good nugget.
Obviously, there's a lot of that in Lord of the Rings. Shout out to Frodo. So you see.
That's cool scene too when he talks to his dad.
Elrond and Durin talking. Elrond has a good scene about. You also see you can see the vision that Elrond is having of like the conversations that Durin is having with Disa, his wife, which I thought was kind of cool. They did that.
That singing scene was kind of cool.
Disa rules, by the way.
Yeah, she's a cool
Disa
character.
Episode.
Yeah,
that singing scene was awesome.
So yeah, they find the Mithril, and Durin's father doesn't totally approve of it, and then people get trapped in a cave, which actually again we're giving a light breakdown. Lord of the Rings is one of the better breakdowns on YouTube if you really want to go deep. He mentioned he's like, if you listen closely, when the cave sounds like it collapses a bit, you almost hear a roar. He's like, is that the Balrog turning over? Maybe is that like a?
That's how he comes out. They dig for Mithril and they go too deep.
They dig too deep. So I thought that was a neat little lore stuff that we see tied in, and that's clearly going to play a big factor when Celbrinder gets his hands on that shit at some point. And then no Harfoots.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonder why it was the best
plus.
episode.
No Harfoots. Chris, any questions? I know you're going to watch Lord of the Rings this week, but any questions, thoughts? More questions,
I'll just give my thoughts here because I am going to rewatch this week, and I'm going to try to get to all of them. Obviously, it's kind of a long venture.
You're going to be like fucking Leo, pointing at the TV
the way,
a bunch.
The Halbrand line I was looking for was like he's like find something they fear and exploit it.
Yes.
That's like
he's
sketchy as
he's
hell.
Bad dude.
Well, that'll be interesting then, though, Jeff, because my criticisms of the show, and I think the show is incredibly well made. It has nothing to do with like, oh, I don't understand that reference. That doesn't really like. We talked about this when we reviewed Matrix Resurrections, where it's like I'm not going to complain about something because I haven't, I'm not familiar with the source material. My big issue is I just think there's way too many characters. I just think there's too much going on. I think that if this was season 3 or 4 of a show where you can slowly work up to introducing these different characters and the dynamics, it feels like they're really throwing a lot at the wall and trying to figure out what sticks. I mean, it's doing enough to keep me engaged from one episode to another. But no, I'm definitely, and we could talk about it next week, and I'll probably write a blog about it as well after, I rewatch the original trilogy. But from what I remember about the original 3, there is substantially more simplicity to the story. I felt like I mean, there's complexities to it, but there's a ring, you got to destroy the ring. It's fine. I don't really have any questions, like outside of just being generally, having to do my homework, making sure that I keep up with which character is which. Like, I guess if there's any other complaint, it's from a dialogue standpoint, not so much a performance standpoint. It's a little bit dry. Like, and again, I don't want Marvel quippiness, but I do feel like I would like to see these characters grow in regards to their personalities, because from what I remember of the original Lord of the Rings films, yeah, they took themselves very seriously, but there were those moments of levity and really good characters that kept you going. There's good characters here, but none that I really latch onto and relate with, and I think that could be a problem. Maybe not right now, but at least going forward.
I'm curious if you become more invested after things sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to say the word. You're almost gonna like see the ball. Okay, I just think like when you have things to connect to it. I just don't think this is a show either that like Mandalorian was always praised for like you could pick this shit up if you don't like Star Wars.
Yes.
I don't think like that is not the case with this whatsoever. Like I don't think I think there is that you need to have a little bit of investment in Lord of the Rings to truly like enjoy it. I think.
For sure. They also, for whatever it's worth, like there's the YouTube breakdowns and shit. In Amazon they have like little things, like it's almost a glossary. When you scroll down from the episode page, they tell you all this shit. And like again, because this is something on streaming and not something like on Let's Live or something that's like a movie or whatever, and you could sit there and Googling shit. I'm not saying you have to, and that would almost be like a negative to a viewing experience. But I just like doing that because it kind of enhances the experience for me.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited for you to rewatch them. A couple.
Wait, Chris, did you like they took our jobs scene?
Yeah.
That was like I didn't see people comparing it to that. I thought that was pretty weak. But
yeah,
when they're in the town square and
the
elves coming, it's just like a rip from the South Park.
Yep.
They took our jabs.
They took our jabs.
Hey, Deanie from Discord said, how many Nazguls do you think we've met so far?
Just the one, if you ask me.
I feel like 2. I think Adar might end up being one too.
Who?
Wait, Adar can't be one because it's all humans.
Yeah, the elves they keep their secret from Sauron, so he can't corrupt them.
So I think it's just one. Then.
I mean, Durin
probably Theo. Actually, it might be.
Adar did have that point too. He said, "I'm not a god. I'm not a god yet."
Yeah.
So, I forgot about
Durin. I think Sauron's gonna kill the fuck out of him.
Durin, I believe, gets a ring of power, but the dwarves don't really get corrupted like men do. So it's really just the men that you need to worry about. Like all the Nazgul are just men. So
I would say actually, I would say Theo and Halbrand. I think they're both gonna end up as Nazgul.
I don't think Theo's gonna end up being a king. It's all kings of men that get the rings. That motherfucker's never gonna be a king.
He's got that sword sucking him.
Durin is in the beginning of Fellowship with a ring, I believe. I do believe
it's either Durin or Durin's son. I forget.
Yeah.
But don't forget, the Balrog is also called Durin's Bane because it kills. I want to say Durin's grandson, I think, and then that's what destroys Khazad-dûm or Moria.
Cock says, "Why is Gooch wrong for hating the Harfoots? They're delightful and he should be shamed."
I threw this in there just so I could say "fuck you, Cock." I'm not wrong. The Harfoots stink. They're just. I mean, they're not appealing. They're not. I mean, the Meteor Man is literally carrying them.
He is.
Literally.
Allen Iverson, 2001 Sixers, carrying that storyline.
Caitlyn Jenner. Shout out to Caitlyn Jenner in Discord. Why did Adar let Arondir go instead of sending a message to him? Message himself.
I was wondering that too.
I think that's a very common like trope and move.
Yeah.
Like go send this message.
Leave one guy alive to go send the message.
Yeah, which he did. I mean, they killed the other two.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually not that crazy to me because, like, if you go there and you do it yourself, you're kind of starting the fight.
Yeah.
By doing it yourself.
Yeah, we could have just like sent like an orc messenger. I'm sure they got orc messengers, right?
Yeah. For sure.
That's a shitty orc job.
Yeah, I mean,
some of them got pretty dumpy jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like the guys that had to birth the Uruk-hai that just then choked them to death right in front of them.
Or, I mean, orcs are bootlickers. Like, it's just there's no way around it. They just what they are.
I do like how they all have that very similar Britishy accent. You know what I mean? Like it's not Cockney. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a very, very funny accent.
Shout out that one guy. I did not realize that he'd been in every single Middle Earth project. That's pretty sweet.
That's cool. Yeah.
Handfire seasons. This is the question I like a lot. Is Adar eventually going to serve Sauron, or is he going to fight him to rule? I think he is going to fight him.
Like, I think he's going to fight too.
Yeah, I think his line of "I'm not a god yet" would imply like he's not there serving Sauron. Which I was hoping wouldn't be I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I was hoping it wouldn't be the case. I was hoping he wasn't like taking orders secretly from like Sauron or like he is leading. I think he's leading within Sauron's footsteps and like trying to replicate. And I think Sauron will make his way back. I still think it's Halbrand and fight him. I do think he'll fight. No matter who it is, though, I do think he'll fight him.
Yeah, I think if I were to guess, I don't think Adar is going to be fighting Sauron. I think he's doing his will just because they're making Mordor. And that's always been, obviously, it's the plan of Sauron. Like, it's his map to get to Mordor. So they're doing the same thing. And I don't think that he would try to fight Sauron, since Sauron has just abilities way beyond whatever an elf would ever have. So I don't know. I just feel like they're going to be. I don't think it's maybe necessarily going to be totally symbiotic, or maybe Sauron just kills him. But I don't know.
That's a cool story. That is I like the idea of like thinking about like what is going to happen there, because that arose pretty quick for me. It's like how will this one play out? So one of the many little plot threads that I'm excited for. Next episode comes out later on in the week. We will talk about it. Very amped.
I really wish it wasn't a Friday drop.
Yeah,
that's just it seems strange.
Yeah,
Disney Plus does that too. I guess they've been doing Thursday for this, but they were doing that for Mando, right? Mando was a Friday drop also.
The Browns play on Amazon Thursday night. Did you roll right into it from the Chargers game?
Yeah, straight into it. It was the only thing.
That's probably why they do it then.
They they advertised it, and if you watch Thursday Night Football, like every 5 seconds they talked about Lord of the Rings. That entire broadcast. By the way, Thursday Night Football broadcast, terrible, awful.
Oh, I don't know. I watched the Dude Perfect alternate broadcast.
It was god awful. They had that weird ass little PFTs tweeted about it. The little microphone flag that looked like it was from fucking Fortnite or some shit, and like the entire thing was just like one big advertisement for Amazon. Which whatever, makes sense. Yeah. It was just fucking weird.
It is also, and he didn't do a bad job, but Kirk Herbstreit doing NFL is never going to be.
No, I didn't like
it. I tweeted out, it's Colonel Sanders giving you hamburgers.
Kaylee Hartung's on there now too. She came back from like CNN. Like she used to be I guess you guys wouldn't know her, but she used to be the
I know she is, yeah.
She used to be the SEC girl. Like she did all the Kentucky basketball games for like 5 years. Like
the four people on that panel had no chemistry. Like Whitworth, her, and then I forget which the other two dudes with them.
Was that Richard Sherman? Was that the panel?
Sherman
was Fitz, right?
Yeah,
no, Fitzgerald's on Monday night. No,
Fitz was definitely there. It was Fitz. It was Fitz, Marshall, or rather Richard Sherman, the girl who I wasn't familiar with, and then Whitworth. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, those things take time though. Like I remember we brought it up a few weeks ago, where like the Michigan App State game was the first Big Ten Network game ever. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking the post game was like, oh, this is so fucking bad. Like, but now 15 years later, it's like with Rebson and those guys, it's like, all right, it's fine, it's whatever. Like that stuff does take time to develop.
Yeah, I wonder what type of bag they're getting for that.
For Amazon?
TNF, yeah,
probably like
an insane amount.
Can't beat a football broadcasting job. I can't wait for Jameis Winston to be in the booth.
Yeah, oh my god,
every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, wow, he's just gonna be Charles Barkley.
Whatnot, sponsor of this episode as well. If you have not heard about Whatnot, it's a live stream auction app where you can buy collectibles, comics, kind of anything. Bring business together, people together through commerce. Sellers can host live streams. Engaged connoisseurs like yourself listening can bid in real time. Live streams happen 24/7. And guess what? Barstool is on Whatnot. We sold a couple dozen jerseys the other day. Someone bought Rowan's for like $400.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, game used Rowan. A game used Frank the Tank. Went for like 300 something bucks.
Game used Rowan soaked with tears.
That's actually
it is the jersey.
That's a steal getting the game used Frank that much cheaper than the Rowan, because that's like 3 of Rowan's jerseys.
Yeah, that's very true.
In terms of fabric.
We'll be going live on Whatnot, running live shows and all that, selling things you've never seen before and Whatnot exclusives, and things not just from our office, other exclusives as well. I think we may end up doing some stuff, some movie memorabilia at some point. We talked to those guys the other night. So create a Whatnot account using the link in the description and get $10 off your first purchase. Make sure you follow the Barstool Sports page and get alerted whenever we go live.
Whatnot guys were awesome. That one kind of looked like Sean Evans. He was cool to talk to.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah, good dudes. All right. Interview with Kevin Smith. We did a draft. We talked about movie hot takes, but also just a lot of Kevin Smith talking about just his inspiration for Clerks 3, among other things. He also got really mad at one of Robbie's takes. Like, jokingly, it was very funny, though.
You wanted to flip a table.
Yeah. Here's our interview with Kevin Smith. It's been a long time, but we had him in our old office. Mm-hmm. Kevin Smith.
It's been a while.
In studio.
We tried to put that in a movie, and they were going to charge us $45,000 to go. It's been a while.
Just that?
Yeah.
It was in the cartoon movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that movie nobody saw.
Yeah. So we got that under the radar.
That's the secret.
Keep that fucking shit quiet. You're just ruining it.
We're gonna have a little fun today. We're gonna do a nerd hot take, like I guess draft or rankings. Yeah. But Clerks 3.
Okay.
Clerks 3. We got to talk about Clerks 3.
Yes, but what are these two things? Are we doing?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
A thing and then a separate.
It's all one.
All in one.
It's all in one.
Yeah.
All in one. And now I'm not a sports guy. What is the draft?
Oh, you're gonna just pick a. You'll go first.
Go in order.
It's like
just so we don't pick the same
with your
thing.
pick. one of us goes, and then you kind of go around.
Now, when you presume that I know what the fuck you mean about, you'll go with your pick. What the fuck is that?
So we're doing nerd hot takes, kind of inspired by Randall and Clerks 2, because, you know, his Return of the King, Return of the Jedi thing.
Totally.
A hot take being you don't like Lord of the Rings. I also don't like Lord of the Rings. We're the same on
So
that.
that's what it is.
So that's a hot take.
We'll go first, and then we'll let you... You'll
catch
see how
on.
it goes.
We'll learn as we go.
This doesn't sound like a draft at all.
It's like it's gonna be like a
I
couple
thought a
rounds.
draft was like, I picked this guy. You pick this guy.
Yeah, so like
this
you're
guy.
picking your take.
Yeah, so you're picking your take.
So you're not picking a guy, you're picking a take.
Picking
Yeah,
a
you're
take.
picking your take.
All right, now
Yeah.
I follow.
But Clerks 3.
But it's all Clerks 3 oriented.
No,
we got to
talk
do
about
Clerks 3 first.
Oh, all right.
There you got it. We got to talk about the reason you're here.
Done and done. Clerks 3, folks should go see it now. It's on Fathom.
He
Event
saw it.
Screens.
I went
You saw
last
it?
night. Yeah,
You dig it? Where'd you
I loved
see
it. I went in Clifton.
How was
and
that?
It was actually fantastic. So it was a packed theater, and one of the like B production assistants was there wearing their Clerks 3 production thing.
So they were rock stars.
Brought a huge crew with them, and like during the credits, they were cheering when they saw their name.
Oh,
And
that
everything.
fucking
It was
rocks.
awesome, though. I really loved it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a real. I've been on tour with it. You can see it on Fathom Event Screens until Sunday, but I'm touring with it until Thanksgiving on the convenience tour. So every night, like I get to watch it with, except this week because we cleared out for Fathom. I get to watch it with 1,000 to 1,500 people, man, who are hardcores. You know, and you're talking about people who've overpaid to see the movie. It's like $50 or something like that. So even if the movie sucks, they're like, this rocks, because they're out on an expensive night. And for me, it's bliss because I stand behind the screen, and that's where all the love goes, right? Like everyone's laughing in the direction of the screen, the affection, everything goes forwards. So I'm right behind the screen, like fucking Tony Stark when the Jericho bomb goes off, just fucking waves of appreciation. So it's been absolute bliss. It seems to be an emotional journey for a lot of cats.
Yeah.
Like everyone's going in looking for the funny, and we give them the funny for the first hour and change. But then in the last the last third, we give you a Clerks movie nobody would have expected, like in 1994, in 2006, or even fucking in 2022. It's just we go a different way with it. I couldn't give you the authenticity that I could give you in the first one, in as much as that was a movie about boots on the ground experience in retail. I don't have that anymore. You know, I used to be the guy dealing with fucking Karens and shit. Now I'm the guy that owns the store. So if an employee's like, this job would be great if it weren't for fucking customers, I'd be like, you're fucking fired. So like, I can't give you that experience. You know who can? Like if I was going to make an authentic Clerks 3 that was like the first Clerks, I wouldn't even do it. There's that guy on TikTok with the mustache who does the IKEA things. You ever watch those?
Yes.
Dude is legit brilliant. That's Clerks. That's the modern Clerks. He does it in 60 seconds. And I'm like, fuck, that's fantastic. I can't do that anymore. So in lieu of that, I had to find some authenticity to shove up the movie's ass so that it plays, so that it feels real. Second Clerks, predicated on nothing. I love that movie, but it's made up, whole cloth. It's a fan fiction, Dante and Randall fan fiction. Clerks is literally my life with just people's names changed. So that's why it feels authentic. It feels authentic because it was made by a guy working at that convenience store who turned the camera off while shooting to ring you up and then fucking turn the camera back on to make the movie. So since I can't do those things, I figured like I can still replicate the formula that made Clerks to me what it was, which is I'm just going to take my life and change everybody's names. And this time around, in order to do that, I stripped mine my life of the heart attack and gave it to Randall. And I gave the boys, Dante and Randall, the opportunity to make the movie that we made years ago. So the movie becomes this kind of fun meta affair, which if you've ever seen Clerks fucking more than once, and you sit here and watch this movie, you're taken through a funhouse ride at one point as they try to make their version of Clerks. And it becomes this kind of greatest hits album or a cover album of some sort. Yeah, it's so strange. But then in the third act, and correct me if I'm wrong, you start reflecting on these characters, and for some reason you start reflecting on yourself. That's what I notice in the audience, which is like it starts with them feeling about Dante and Randall and then turns into self-reflection, because you're like, how long have I been watching these movies? And they're old, and how old am I? And wait a second, what's the message here? Holy shit. So the movie tends to leave you with a lot more than you expected coming in. I feel like we deliver the movie we promised in the trailer.
Yeah.
But then we give you a secret second movie, which is like, oh shit, that was worth the effort.
I'm a cry guy. I'm not afraid to admit. There were
you
tears.
are, yes.
There were tears last night.
I walked him out of Endgame. I walked him out of Endgame in tears.
It is very much
only
our version of that.
I was only not in tears with Endgame because we cried at the press screening 2 days before. So I'd already,
we were watching. We already seen it. So we're just watching Robbie, waiting for his reaction for everything.
I cry every fucking time. I saw that at the premiere. I saw Endgame at the premiere. Chris Hemsworth was like, he shot with us that day for Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And then I was like, what are you doing tonight? He's like, I'm going to the premiere. And he's like, you going? And I was like, no. He's like, you want to go? And I was like, fuck yeah. And so I got to be one of his dates. One of his harem, if you will. And I saw that shit with everybody at the premiere, man, and fucking bawled like a baby.
Yeah. We saw you actually at the Infinity
War screening
in
here in
New York. Yeah,
that was the one where fucking when Tony got stabbed. You were like, no.
Yeah.
You were in a different theater than us, actually.
Yeah, you were in the one next to me.
Yeah, they
you might have heard me in the other theater. I was so upset.
We like walked to the theater and like we were just like in the lobby. We walked past you. We were just like, holy shit, was that Kevin Smith behind us?
I did. I lucked into going to a press screening and shit, and I dragged my wife. Oh my god, that was one of my favorite movie-going experiences of my life. And that was an audience that was made up of like press, but also like they put a bunch of
families
fans
and
in
stuff
there,
come with them
and
too.
Families.
Yeah.
So it was like a nice cross section. It wasn't like a bunch of so you couldn't hear every fucking line, but everybody was so fucking grooving it, and I was the fucking loud one where you couldn't hear every line. Sadly.
Robbie, I know you wanted to ask before we get into our nerd hot take. You wanted to ask about the
Clerks question for you. I loved Jay and Silent Bob Reboot as well. That was an awesome movie going experience for me as well. I went and saw it in the city, the double feature with Strike Back.
Yeah, they did both.
Did
that
the
was the other Fathom thing.
Did the way that got so much praise from your fan base, especially, impact the way you made Clerks 3?
It's not so much the way it impacts, but I saw somebody, Russ Burlingame, wrote a tweet today that I said, oh, that's interesting. He goes, between Jay and Silent Bob and Reboot and Clerks 3, I think it's clear that Kevin has entered his Marvel Phase 2 with the newest universe. And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, we've done it, and now we're kind of doing a second layer. And if we wind up getting to do Twilight of the Mallrats, fingers crossed, it is very much part and parcel with that. So it's like, here's all the funny you remember, and here's a bunch of heart. That's just where I am in my life. Like, at age 52... I'm happy to make people laugh, but like, you want to give them something else. Like, anybody can make them laugh at this point. Like when I started, I could be like, hey man, snowballing, right? And you'd be like, I never heard of that shit. That's funny as fuck. Then the internet happened, and you don't need me for that. Because the internet will teach you far better than snowballing, and you'll learn it like the second it starts happening. So there's no like dirty curse words that I can bring to you to make me relevant anymore.
Kind of desensitized to it thanks to the internet. Yeah.
I mean, you could watch an episode of Ted Lasso and they curse better than they curse in Clerks. More eloquently, funnier. So I can't do that anymore. But what I can do is the older I get, the more experience I got, the more wisdom I got. And not wisdom like I'm smarter, but you just got experience. You know what's important and you know what you want to pass on. In the beginning, I just wanted to make you laugh. And now I just want to make you laugh, but I want to make you think. I want to make you feel. I want you to take something from it because... I remember reading in George Carlin's sort of biography. It was called Last Words, and they put it out after he passed away. It's a book that he was writing with Tony Hendra. It was meant to be the basis for the Broadway show that he wanted to spend the rest of his life doing called New York Boy, which would do the story of his life, but he passed away. So they put the book out. And then I'm sorry, I keep hitting the table, and I'm a podcaster. They put the book out, and in the book, there's a piece that he wrote that he said, when you're making people laugh, before you make people laugh, he's going, people put a performance of themselves. And like, you never see a real person. You see the projection that they put forward. Like, this is me, the character of them that they play. He goes, but when a person is laughing, sorry, I keep hitting the table. When the person is laughing, that is an involuntary action. You cannot maintain a performance through an involuntary action. So what happens is the performance, the facade falls away. And when a person's laughing, he said, that is when you see exactly who that fucking person is. They're completely unguarded. He goes, at that moment in time, their mind is open to suggestion because you've just made them comfortable, pumped them full of fucking serotonin, and they trust you for whatever reason right in that moment. He goes, in that moment, I find it's best to put forward a new idea. That's the best time to do it. You don't fucking face them and be like, hey, you got to do a thing. You fucking get them laughing, you get them comfortable, and then you casually throw in some new ideas. So when I was a kid, like, you know, I was starting to make flicks. My brother, Donald, I was just talking about in the other podcast, is gay. And I remember having a big discussion with him about, like, when you go to the movies, what's it like? Because it's always like boy meets girl and they fall in love. He's like, well, I can appreciate a fucking love story. But goes, yeah, it'd be nice if I could go to the movies and see me reflected up there. So I always felt like in everything I do, because my brother's going to have to sit through it, I was like, I should put some gay content in there. Because just so he's like this fucking breeder movie. Then all of a sudden, somebody's like, take a dick in the mouth. He'd be like, oh, that's for me. So I put it in from a young point. And I, you know, I'm not saying we changed the world, but like in the early 90s, it wasn't like it is now, where guys were so fucking super uncomfortable about like being gay,
like you're gay.
dick sucking. Oh, it was a negative. I mean, it's even in fucking Clerks. So for me, I was always like, you know, not like let's normalize it, but like let's not make it a big deal. That's why Jay talks about sucking dick as much as he does. And for years, people just let it slide. The guys who would normally be like, I don't like that shit, man. He's talking about putting a dick in his mouth. Let it slide because like I like Jay. He's funny. And slowly, like Moore's change. You know, people start going like being more comfortable with the notion that was fucking foreign, and an audience that I could speak to, like who was, you know, I'm not saying they were underdeveloped or whatever, not, but they hadn't fucking grown yet or whatever. There was a chance to like reach them and maybe help them see the world through a larger prism rather than just be like, hey man, it's this or it's nothing. Either the world is this and you act this way or you're fucking not in my club. Acceptance, diversity, like letting a little bit more in. And over the course of my career, I'm happy to see that it's happened. My fan base is very like accepting and open and liberal and shit. And I ain't talking politically. It's just clearly you watch my movies and you know where I stand. There's a lot of liberal activity going on in those movies. And I just believe in America. And part of America is like the pursuit of happiness. And that's everybody. That's everybody's individual pursuit of happiness. I like to make movies about people and their tiny ass fucking pursuits of happiness that are fucking small. Now I'm at a place in my career where the characters are pursuing the same happiness that I pursued at the beginning of my career. With Dante and Randall, it felt important to me to give them the same opportunities they gave me. Like, they opened the world up to me because I made that movie. Fucking, I get to do this for a living. I get to, like, this is my job. Today I got 3 things. This, I go to ABC and do an interview, and then I do another fucking interview, and that's it. That's my fucking job. That's absolute fucking bliss, man, that is what life became and shit. And in exchange for that, you got an audience who follows you around. You want to give them back because they give you this life where you don't have to work anymore and shit. And now I could give them the money, but I need the money, so fuck that. I keep the money. But you want to give them something else. You want to impart a good idea, something they can take with them forward in life. So Clerks 3, the last third, is packed with that, of like reminders and shit. Like at the end of the day, this movie is a reminder, like, you are running out of time. Like, and you have something you want to do, start it.
It's the why not thing.
It is the why not thing. Why'd you point to your wrist? You got it on your wrist.
Why not? That was the first tat. Yeah.
It is. Somebody, that makes me so happy. Somebody tweeted today, they were like, the whole movie is like a fictional, a dramatized version of your Why Not.
Totally. It's inspiring. It's like an inspiring movie. It makes you want to make a movie.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clerks 3.
Make sure to make
Clerks
one
3.
and then make a couple sequels as well.
Fifth, we have 50 minutes. We got to do a little rapid fire, but nerds. By the way, we just got our Andor screenings in our email.
Oh shit! Did we?
Just geeked out a little bit. Yeah,
That shit looks good.
We got 15 minutes. Let's
First
just
time
watch the
they
first
announced
15.
that show, I was like, whatever.
That's
Then
what we
I
said,
saw
yeah.
The trailer and I was
waiting
like,
for these
holy
forever.
shit, How am I not watching this already?
All right, so we'll start down here. You can get a sense. I'm gonna do this. I'll go Ken, Jack, Robbie, and then you'll get back-to-back picks. We'll do a snake draft. My first nerd hot take. All of the Star Wars prequels, I guess I could have done this in a positive spin, but I'll be negative. All of the Star Wars prequels are worse than all of the Star Wars sequels. I think all the sequels...
All the prequels are worse than all of the sequels. So
if I rank all the Star Wars movies...
Chronologically, I guess.
Yeah, I think all of the prequel movies
People will be
are
upset
worse than the
about you
sequels.
ranking
I think,
Skywalker
I'll say
above
quick,
Revenge of the Sith.
I think the moving of the goalposts, just because Dave Filoni and company made a good animated series that made the prequel characters a little better, I don't like that. I think that's great. I enjoy the prequels. I'm a big Star Wars nerd.
Right.
I have a Dexter Jetster toy in my office, but I think the prequels.
Cuts
I think the prequels are all worse than the sequels.
And that's the Lucas prequel.
Yeah.
topic.
Granted, we're a Last Jedi positive podcast,
Yeah,
so that
all
is
of us
worth
like
noting.
that
But that's my all right. It's my first take.
How do you guys exist as a Last Jedi positive podcast
tough.
on the internet?
It's tough.
Not easy.
Kevin.
I'm still taking
Yeah.
shit from being like,
no.
I like that movie. You were one of us, and now you're not. I can't tell you how many times across the last 5 years that I've been told by angry internet fans or non-fans that I am no longer one of them. I'm like,
one of
bitch,
us."
I laid the fucking track that you're traveling on. You fucking nuts. You're not one of me. I've been doing this since you were cum, you fucking idiot. Oh, my God.
All right. For my one, I'll go with the Harry Potter one because Harry Potter was big to me growing up. Went to all the book releases as a kid with my mom. Went to all the movie releases, but my mom would let me play hooky for that. And Lord of the Rings, those are the only two things.
Did you read the books?
Oh, yeah. I went to all the book releases like midnight. Like
To get the book drop?
Yeah, yes.
It's
So I
adorable.
was big on it.
That's adorable.
My biggest takeaway from it, though.
Did you see Curse of Child?
No, I didn't really do much stuff with any of the
The
Fantastic
byproduct
Beasts
stuff.
or yeah.
Yeah, I haven't fucked with Fantastic Beasts either.
No, this is a
And
very
I love Dan Fogler, who's in it, but like it's in order to capture me into that world, you needed
Harry Potter.
or not like Dumbledore in the third one.
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
needed
yeah.
like a hook to carry me over.
Yes, exactly. And my takeaway from Harry Potter is that I think the early Harry Potter movies, the ones when they're kids, are better than all the ones in the middle until you get to the end. So I think Deathly Hallows 1 and 2, very good. Everything between that is not nearly as good as I think Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. I think that those movies, considering how young the kids were and all the other actors surrounding them, awesome. Really
take
love
that.
them. Really established the world too.
I'm going to go with a Marvel one with mine, and this is probably going to piss some people off, but I'm going to go with a bit of a positive one. Thor 2, widely known as the worst Marvel movie.
Wait,
I don't think... no, Thor 2.
Dark World.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. I said it.
The fact that that's a hot take is so funny because that is a hot take.
It is.
Yeah.
You'll piss somebody
It's
off.
at the bottom of everybody's list. There's a lot of good Loki stuff in that movie. Thor's pretty good in that movie.
Christopher Eccleston hated making that.
Yeah,
movie.
Chris.
He
I just
hated
think about
making
Chris
it so
Eccleston talking
much.
about putting on all the
Yeah.
makeup to be.
He's like, I hated this
Malekith.
shit so
Yeah.
much.
Who?
Chris Eccleston played like the
The
Dark
Dark
Elf.
Elf?
Yeah.
hated
He
it.
didn't
He was like, never again. And then Ragnarok was good. He's like, maybe. yeah, maybe I'd do it again. Yeah. All right.
All right,
okay.
so now it's your turn. A hot take
take.
for us.
Controversial.
I mean, you
can do two in a row.
I was gonna
You
say,
got- you get
could
two in
kick
a
it
row,
off with
too.
the Lord of the Rings one.
Yeah.
because that's what inspired the whole thing.
But I would have to have an original.
If
hot
you
take
wanted
on it.
to, yeah.
Let me think. I'm just trying to think what my hot take
It's
is.
about to be like The Hobbit is awesome or something.
Well, I mean, like I had accidental hot takes without even knowing about it. Like this year, I tweeted like, "Hey man, I don't see why." Or I was on Fat Man Beyond, I think, and I was like, "I don't see why like fucking Spider-Man couldn't have been nominated for one of the 10 Oscars and shit."
Spider-Man should have been
That's a good hot
nominated.
take.
Yeah,
That's my hot
that's pretty
take.
good.
That's a
one.
good hot
Spider-Man
take.
should have been nominated for one of the 10 Oscars. I don't say it should have won Best Picture, but it should have been nominated for one of the 10 Best Picture slots, and here's why. Used to be 5 Best Picture slots. They extended it to 10. Why? Because the year of The Dark Knight, people were like, how come The Dark Knight ain't nominated for Best Picture? It's a mainstream movie, sure, but like, why not? And the Academy was like, you know what? You're right. We're going to add more fucking slots. So they upped it to 10 for movies like Spider-Man No Way Home. And they didn't include it. I wasn't like, oh, shut this shit down. But I was like, oh, they easily could have included that and should have. It was a fucking cultural event.
Yeah.
That, brought together decades of filmmaking. Even if you weren't a Spider-Man fan, you have to admit that was a pop cultural event. And for it to not be acknowledged with just a nomination, one of the 10. Now, everyone online tries to counter me, like, well, what would you have dropped from the list? Fuck you. This ain't about that. Don't fucking turn it around. I'm just saying it should have been on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not the guy that's taking shots at other movie
No, and
makers
I'm also
right
not
now.
the guy going to be removing. Tell you what, make it 11. Put that fucker on there.
There you go.
All right,
All right, now
Snake,
it's yours again.
back with you.
Yes.
You get a second.
So I
hot
go
take.
again. Okay.
It's hard to
All
think
right.
about.
Here we go. I'm going to argue that. How many Toy Stories have there been? 4?
Four.
What's the one where they all almost get burned alive?
Toy
Three.
Story 3.
I would argue that Toy Story 3 is the finest Toy Story movie ever made for that scene alone where they're all about to die.
That one crushed me.
That Schindler's Toy Box, I call that.
Literally, yeah.
It was a horrifying, gripping, but emotionally honest look at the end. And that's something in a movie. That's something they go out of their way not to do. Like, they'll kill motherfuckers in movies and stab them and shoot them and shit like that. Death is not a big deal. But when they fucking show you how you're going to feel when the inevitable is approaching, and I don't mean like you're going to fall into a garbage compactor, but the look on all those faces of those toys as they realize we are going to die, and then got calm, and then fucking like held hands and shit. One of the most beautiful moments in cinematic history, and formative for a kid. They don't give you shit like that. Like the old Disney movies, they give you shit like that. They kill Bambi's mom, and you're like, deal with it, motherfucker. Here was a movie that actually taught you how to face the unfaceable moment in a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Like, that ain't Chris Nolan going like, hey, man, look what I did this time. It's a fucking Toy Story.
Yep.
Not even the first one, the third.
Yeah.
And somehow they were able to do something that profound. So I put that above every other Toy Story there is.
I saw it here in the city. I remember my friend, when they were going down, he looked at me, he's like, what the fuck?
Toy Story.
It's like an adult
Great.
snuck in and decided to take over this picture.
There's a great viral video of someone that went in and put it into Premiere and just faded to black at that moment and hit "You Got a Friend in Me" and then gave it to their mom for Christmas. And they filmed her reaction. She was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, they died."
Yep.
My hot take. This is gonna be another one that I think is gonna piss a lot of people off, and it might be showing my age, to be honest. I think Family Guy at its peak is better than The Simpsons at its peak.
Oh!
You're
By the strings, ready to flip this table.
You pissed one person off, yeah.
Yeah, Family Guy I've always been way more into than The Simpsons. It just hits way harder for me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an age thing, but like I see where the thought process is.
People,
if that makes
I
sense.
said it. People are gonna be pissed off. It's a hot take. You wanted hot takes.
I think that's for hot takes.
That's
Lit
the
that shit
hottest.
on fire.
That shit's
Okay.
inferno right there.
All right, Ken,
All right,
Jack.
for mine, I'll do that. I think Man of Steel is one of the most underappreciated comic book movies maybe ever made. I would say it's better than two of the Iron Man movies, two Thor movies, Age of Ultron, Justice
wait.
League.
Hold on. I'm a stoner. You got to go slow.
Okay,
So it's better than two of the Iron Man
I think
movies.
it's better than the last two Iron Man movies.
So
2 and
definitely
3.
not Iron Man 1.
Definitely not Iron Man 1.
Where do you put Iron Man 1?
It'd be very high.
One of the greatest.
Top 5 MCU for me.
Very
easy.
high.
I'll go even further. One of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah, it is so
Easily in the top
One of my most
100 films
rewatched.
ever made. Absolutely.
Throw it on in the background or whatever
So
I'm doing.
fucking strong. The spine, you could build an entire fucking universe
Exactly,
on that
yeah.
fucking movie. It's incredible. Man,
Yeah.
I go back. I remember when I saw that the summer came out, I was like, yeah, it's great, but like fucking then Dark Knight came out. And
Yeah.
everybody was like, fuck on Dark Knight. But I've probably watched Iron Man more than I've watched Dark Knight. I'm a huge Batman fan because it's so well constructed. His performance is brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And it's everything you
easier
want
to
in a
watch,
superhero
too.
movie. Absolutely.
Dark Knight's a 2.5 hour. Like you
Yeah.
get through the end of it, you're like, I need a fucking cigarette.
The amount of pieces that have to fall
Iron
together
Man's
for
just
Iron
fun.
Man too.
Yeah.
Like Favreau had to fight to get Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
on. Like if Kiss Kiss Bang Bang didn't work out, he's definitely not getting that movie. Like it's a lot of shit had to come together.
All right,
But
so better than that.
it's better than the first two Thor movies. I would say
Yes.
better than Age of Ultron, Avengers Age
Yeah.
of Ultron. I would say better than Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I would say better than Batman vs Superman as a whole. Because I think that the origin of Superman in that movie and Henry Cavill as Superman is awesome.
Yeah,
I think
right.
that was a
And also, like, Russell Crowe's Jor-El shit
Yeah.
is really incredibly
Michael
Really
Shannon's
cool.
good as Zod.
Michael
too.
Shannon's
Yes.
fucking great. One of my favorite moments in that fucking movie is a Shannon delivery where he talks about what he was manufactured for.
Yeah.
Where he's like, and what he goes, what is the line? He goes, and what did you do? You grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
The way he hits farms so
So
fucking hard.
angrily,
He's
yeah.
so angry about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll keep it to 3. We're running out of time, so I'll just rip 2 and then we'll finish it out.
All right.
First one, I'll keep it simple because then I'll go with the hotter take one after. We have to go. I like Alamo Drafthouse, but I think dining movie theaters suck.
Oh.
I think they're awful.
Eating at a movie theater is bad.
We saw
Lights On
Pearl
is
last
like
night.
Which one?
Pearl,
the
the
new horror
prequel
movie.
to the movie X. You see horror movie X?
24
by Ty
trilogy.
West.
Yeah.
Ty West movie? And
Yeah.
what is
Yeah, yeah.
Wait,
Check-
it's
Pearl's the prequel to X.
Yeah.
so he's already made a prequel to that
They
movie?
filmed them at the same time.
Back to back.
This kid's career. How old is Ty West?
I don't know. We
This
have him
kid's
on
career
Thursday.
really interests
Crazy.
me. Yeah, I don't. I know he does. He's a better
But I had to
filmmaker
watch
than
it
me.
with-
But he feels. I feel a certain kinship. I've been watching his career, going, oh, that's how I would do it if I was horror only. Like
Brilliant
it just
mind.
feels, yeah.
He's only 41.
There's
Yeah.
41.
But I had to watch it with
God, keep calling
fucking
him a
lights
kid.
underneath the table, as the person actually eat like a grilled, like a fried fish sandwich, like whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
Right.
give me the popcorn and turn the lights off. That's
Yeah,
Brings out a
right.
sizzling
my
fajita.
my last one though.
Filet
HBO
mignon.
Watchmen is I think, the best comic book movie or TV show ever made.
The TV show on HBO is incredible.
I have
Tough to argue.
my Criterion
really
shelf
great.
at home. It has 2 non-Criterions: Ocean's 11 and the Watchmen HBO
Yeah.
and the Watchmen HBO series.
Did they
Sits
put
right
it
next to
on
Samurai?
on like Blu-ray or DVD?
Yeah, it's I got a steel book
I
for
didn't know
both.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
I absolutely adored The Watchmen, and I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, "Wait, it's not technically a sequel, or they're not doing the book. Like, why would you do this?" And Damon found a way to tell a fucking story that was insanely relevant before they were shooting that thing before. Like
Anything,
history
yeah.
caught up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teach us something. Like the whole world got to learn about the Tulsa Massacre.
Yeah. Yep.
Something that apparently it wasn't taught in schools. And somehow took like one of the most original stories ever told and was able to tell a new story
Yeah.
with it while still being even more fucking original. It was fucking spellbinding. One of my favorite moments in that was when Jean Smart, like in the last episode, is on her back on the chair, and Jeremy Irons leans over her, and she's like, she says his name. What's his name?
Ozymandias.
Yeah, she's like, well, she calls him, what's his real name?
Adrian.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, Adrian, and he goes, Mr. Zespic. Yeah. What a surprise seeing you here.
All the Ozymandias stuff was great too.
Oh my God, it was
Fantastic.
fucking
Really good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And seeing him in the outfit,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there was just enough of the comic stuff where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
God.
The squid. That
Yeah,
one
the
shot of squid. Come
See,
on.
that- even
they
that
trusted
show-
the audience.
New York, New York.
Yeah.
Who was it? Who had the? Who's eating the?
Which thing?
Who was it?
from the Sopranos.
It was
Multisanti? Yeah, Christopher
He's like,
Imperioli.
he's like, now I eat my squid with
Michael
marinara.
Imperioli.
yeah, forgot about that.
All right, final hot takes.
All right, my one. I'm gonna go with. I think Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One.
Yeah.
Amazing looking movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid movie that isn't opposite of what Star Wars usually does, which is character driven, and they switched it to being like you don't really have to care too much about the characters. But that's my problem with it.
Because guess what?
Yeah, I think there are way too many characters in Rogue One, and I didn't like almost any of them except for Andor was cool, which we're pumped up to see Andor. I didn't really like any of the other ones. To
What about the robot?
frank.
Yeah, K2 was great.
That was the only one, and we talked to Alan Tudyk
Alan
about that
Tudyk's
too. I was just
awesome.
like, I wish we had more K2. So
Yeah.
like,
And they said he's not in the first season of the show either.
yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
right?
All right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
being yelled at the rapid fire.
All right. Lost had a good ending. I know
Oh,
people
more
don't
Damon
like
Lindelof.
Lost.
This is we're just
I
carrying
think
Damon Lindelof's water
I
now.
think Lost had a beautiful ending. Them in the purgatory. It's kind of like facing, life and death. Them waiting for each
their
other.
Toy Story
It
3.
really made me cry.
Yeah.
Last one. Do you have a Star Wars? Can you end us with a Star Wars hot take? I know that's them defeating the purpose.
Let me
but-
find a Star Wars hot take that I have. Because it's not hot to be like Empire is the best of the saga. Let me think. What would be a good Star Wars hot take? I feel like it's George Lucas's saga. We all know this. I think Irving Kershner did the best job as a director.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Hands
yeah.
down. I don't think it's even a hot take. I think most people agree. But Empire Strikes Back works even if you don't like Star Wars.
Yep.
Even if you don't watch Star
I think
Wars.
it's the best
Even if
movie
you
ever
never
made.
watch a fucking Star Wars movie before or after it. It stands alone. And it doesn't need the first one. Think about it. How little that movie has to do with like the Death Star getting blown
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And Vader acts in a completely different way than he did in the first one. The first one, he didn't give a fuck who the farm boy is. Second one, he enters the fray looking for Skywalker. So you don't really miss anything whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not
One
a
of
very
one
hot
for me.
take. Warm take.
One of one for me. Give me one. Clerks 3. Check it out quickly.
If I'm
Hottest
just gonna
take,
do
quick.
Wins of Winter is actually going to be released before George kicks the can.
Oh, shit.
Damn. That was a hot one.
What a that's a damn. Thank you
Beyond
so
hot
much.
take. Burning hell take.
Never gonna come out. Never coming out.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Next
Fun,
time you're
kids.
through, we gotta
Done and done. I
have you
talk
back
movies
again.
all fucking day long.
Yeah.
Thank you for going last
Of course,
night.
yeah.
It means the world, man.
We're amped to see it as well. Cannot wait.
Yep.
Clerks 3.
Kids, thanks. for
Crazy.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
All right, Clerks 3. Check it out. Now, Ty West, Pearl. We are going to be reviewing Pearl next week, the prequel to the movie X. Ty West's other movie that came out also this year. We love Pearl. This was an awesome interview. I would not listen to this interview unless you've seen Pearl, though. Like, I think the context of the interview is much better if you've seen the movie. Good interview, but I do think, like, we didn't get to, like, crazy spoilers, but...
You'll appreciate the questions more.
Yeah, he's got a funny joke about like just franchises that go on too long.
Yes.
Yes, he had a good answer. I was glad.
His answer is very funny.
He could have gotten more diplomatic. He didn't give a full-on answer, but he gave enough where it was enjoyable. Let's do an interview with Ty West. All right, we are joined by Ty West. We are talking about two, which is wild to say, two awesome movies from the same year. Mm-hmm. That's just which we'll get into how and why. We got to see this at Alamo Drafthouse, and you gave a little kind of Q&A and insight for those who don't know. X, if you've not seen X, we've talked about X in this pod, one of our favorite movies of the year. There's the prequel. You got to film them back to back. Not that the pandemic had any great effects, but you had the ability to shoot two movies, and you now have two awesome movies. And we'll talk about Pearl, set in 1918 during the era of the Spanish flu pandemic and World War I. The film explores the origins of Pearl, the villainous character from X. The events take place prior to that previous film and explore how the cabin where the massacre of X takes place was once used as a boarding house during the war. Out September 16th. If you're listening to this now, it's out already. Yep. We had the pleasure of seeing it early. I'll start it out. A lot of daylight in this. An ode to old Technicolor film. We've hyped up movies like Midsummer and what was done with that in the daylight, and you got to do a really cool contrast. Is that how you describe just this world and this vision with Pearl?
Yeah, I think it was really just an opportunity to do something that, felt fresh. And even though, it's weird to say that because it's a particularly old-fashioned style movie, but I just felt that, the subject matter of the movie is bizarre, set within a very golden age of Hollywood, almost Disney-like aesthetic. And that felt fresh, and that felt new, and that felt like a way to take something particularly retro and kind of make it, modern for an audience. And that was exciting to me because I felt like, well, nobody else is doing this, and let's try it out.
One thing that I think you did in this movie that was really brilliant was just adding Germans to the mix. Because Tandy Wright, I think is how you pronounce your name, Tandy, right? Yes. So Tandy Wright, that was an accidental pun that I didn't mean to make. But she was terrifying, and there's just something about the German language that is just very scary. It's like there's a guttural feeling of fear in the German language. How did that come to be when you were kind of making the origin for this movie?
It's a bit strange. I mean, well, there's a lot of German immigrants in Texas at that time, and that's essentially where it come from a historical standpoint. And the relation to the World War I that was going on at the time was a conflict that would be something going on in their lives as well, and that felt like an interesting story for the character of what they would be going through. And then Tandy is interesting because Tandy was our intimacy coordinator on X.
Oh, no way.
And so I just spent 6 weeks making X, and Tandy was there just, making sure everything was going well. And she was just a lovely person. And she was also an actor, but at this moment in her life, she was mostly just intimacy coordinating. And I had just spent 6 weeks with her. And so when we were casting Pearl, I kind of was like, hey, Tandy, why don't you audition for this? And she was like, oh, no, I could never do that. I was like, well, we're going to make another movie, and it'd be fun for you to be a part of it. And, it's not a porn movie, so we don't need an intimacy coordinator for this. But it'd be great to have you around. So if you audition, worst case scenario, you're not in it. We have an awkward conversation on set and we get back to work and it's all fine. I was like, best case scenario, you're in the movie. And she thought about it and was like, I don't know. And then I just got a tape sent to me, like a link sent to me. And on one of the weekends, Owen Campbell, who plays RJ in X, he filmed it. And Martin Henderson, who plays Wayne, he read opposite of her. And she did this 5-page off-book monologue from the movie, the dinner table scene. And it was amazing. And Tandy is from New Zealand. She's not German. She speaks no German. She knew nothing about the German language. And she did this really amazing audition. And then I was like, yo, Tandy, you're in the movie. And then in 3 weeks, she really transformed herself into that person. I mean, she was chopping wood and learning German. And we had a German visual effects supervisor and a German sound mixer. And they were both like, if we didn't know Tandy wasn't German, we would be 100% convinced. So it was it's a real testament to her. And it was really exciting. One of the many sort of lore-ish backstories to this movie is our intimacy coordinator then becomes, the co-lead in the movie.
That's great.
Really cool.
I hope if you're listening to this now and you haven't seen it yet, You come back and listen to that after seeing, because that is mind blowing.
It'll surprise you because like you would assume she's been speaking German her whole life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I mean, wow. Something I didn't know until you introduced the movie was that this was all filmed in New Zealand. I had no idea. And I'm usually, not that I take pride in it, but I feel like I can usually tell when something's like, hey, this isn't New York, it's Bulgaria or wherever, Toronto or something like that. You know, you can usually tell, but I could not tell. And I would love to know just how you dressed up the farm to look American, not only just in one era, but in two different eras. Like everything looked very, very American.
Yeah, I think I'm also one of those people who can spot Bulgaria, if you will. And
Always Bulgaria.
Filmmaking is on sale in Bulgaria.
Yep.
So because of that, I think I'm particular about it. With X, there's only one area in New Zealand that looks like Texas. It doesn't look that much like Texas, but there's one area, and there's not, because the rest of New Zealand does not look like that at all. And in this one area, we were able to do it. And Tom Hammock, the production designer, who's terrific, like we spent a lot of time on like very particular details, and a little particular detail goes a long way, because it's not just here's something from the period. It's like, here's something you remember experiencing, whether it's a street sign, whether it's a bag of potato chips, whether it's the color of a magazine. There's something that really roots you into like your own nostalgic experience of it rather than a commercial thing. And so, you know, there was certainly some foliage and things like that we had to cover and stuff like that. But generally, it was just about trying to get all these little esoteric details to add up to where you would never think otherwise. And then in Pearl, it was a really heightened aesthetic and a heightened version. And really, no one was really around in 1918, most likely, that's watching this movie. So it's hard to say what they would know. But I mean, just the miracle that we were able to find like right side drive or left side drive Model Ts. Because like, there should not be left side drive.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, let alone three of them, one that we would push into a lake. I mean, it was like, and they were there. And so thankful there were some car collectors there.
Yeah,
I wish you the best, but I also hope there's a 105-year-old that sends you mail and is like, it wasn't quite like this. Sorry, sir.
Didn't capture it.
I'm sure it's on the message boards.
That was literally going to be my next question: is where you found all the cars and trucks and stuff? Because like the one thing I know, because you guys shot it on the North Island, right? Mm-hmm. Peter Jackson has that big estate where he has an insane collection of way too much World War I style, like memorabilia, tons of cars, trucks, tanks. It's like maybe this all got taken from the Peter Jackson and bunker collection.
The truck at the end was loaned to us from him, and so that we were very
that's awesome.
So that came from that. The cars are just for the most fortunate reason for me, there was just a lot of car collectors in New Zealand, and so sometimes a car like a Model T or something like that you think would be very difficult to find is actually easier because it's such a specific collectible thing. Whereas if you like in X, for instance, that van was a miracle because a left side drive 1970s Dodge van is not something people are going out of their way to import into New Zealand, And so, we found a guy that had one, and it was a shell of a vehicle, and we completely redid the whole interior, painted it, the whole thing. It looked nothing like the van in the movie. But especially during COVID, it was not a situation where we could ship a car down there. So, looking for like a Ford Pinto is more difficult than a Model T in a way.
What would you have done if you couldn't find the bus or the van, I guess? What would you have had to switch it to something else?
I have no idea. I mean, we would have been doomed. It was one of the first things we did, so we got ahead of that really early. Yeah, no, it would have been a real crisis because there's a lot of people in that van. I mean, it would be crowded in a car. So it was. I don't know what we would have done. We would have figured something out. Like maybe maybe a pass van or like a Winnebago. I have no idea. Yeah. But it was. We found one, and then we got the one, and that was it.
We mentioned that these were filmed back to back. You mentioned in a pre kind of table setter during the Pearl screenings at Alamo Drafthouse that you pitched it to A24 and it was greenlit, I think, before you filmed, but you wrote this with Mia Goth, who unbelievable, this movie.
So good.
We haven't even mentioned that yet. You wrote with this on FaceTime back and forth, and you made the comment, I believe you said that, hey, if they don't greenlight it, at least we have this amazing like backstory, like just in case. Is this, now granted, it's not COVID anymore and you don't have to quarantine, but is this maybe like a tactic you'll do with future movies? Like, hey, maybe I'll like write something just in case.
I think the odds of me pulling this off again is this is a very once in a lifetime situation that I'm incredibly grateful for. I think the odds of anytime I would bring this up again, someone's going to go, no. You know what you did last time. You're not fooling us this time. But I'm just really grateful to A24 because they They saw something in it, like ideally what I saw in it, and they just bet on it. And we had never worked together before, so it wasn't like they were betting on a relationship with me. They were just, I don't know. They just, sometimes you make a bet on something, and I was fortunate to be the person they did that.
Has there been anything? So there are definitely, if you've seen X and when you see Pearl, like there's definitely in any horror movie there's some moments of, or maybe lighter, like a good chuckle, a good laugh or something. But in a test screening with maybe either of these movies, was there something that maybe popped up? You're like, oh, I did not think they'd react like that. I did not know if that's how they'd view it. And then you may have to tweak it around a little bit.
I don't think in Pearl, I'm trying to remember. Pearl actually tested very well. Which is usually not the case with horror movies, and certainly not the case with like independent horror movies, because it's like the people you're recruiting, some will like it, but you're also just kind of blindly recruiting, or you're strategically recruiting, but it's people that they may have just come out of the Avengers, and it's a bold difference, to jump into some things like, in the sort of A24 world or whatnot. A24 is also great about they use it for marketing or for any good ideas that come out of it, but it's not as if how a movie tests, they are going to say, we need to change something. And so they're really respectful to filmmakers in that way. I want to say that in X, there was something that people there was one line in X that was a kind of a throwaway line. And for whatever reason, like people really attached to it, like it meant something really big. And then I just changed it, because that was the one thing I got out of there. I was like, it never occurred to me that people would think like that meant something deep. And it was like, but it was and I was like, you could only learn that by putting it in front of 300 people and having them be like, when she said this, I thought we were gonna, and I was just like, really? Like that was a nothing line. And so I changed the line, and that's about it. But for the most part, the movie stayed more or less the same.
Speaking of X, if we go and rewatch X, are we going to now notice sort of like any Easter eggs? Because obviously you're doing both these things at the same time. Are we going to notice?
You got one behind you right now, I feel like, right?
Yeah, good eye.
I was like, wait a second. Wow.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
Palace Follies,
There's
right?
two.
Is it? Oh,
that's the camera from X.
Shit, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Easter egg interview. Wow, never had that.
Yeah, we're just getting real meta with it. Yes, there's plenty of things, and so because we did know we were making it prior to it, so
a couple I picked up on, but like there's some really hidden ones too.
Yeah, it can get pretty deep cuts in there, but yeah, because to do them really obvious is a little cringy. Mm-hmm. And it kind of devalues the movies in a way, because it was important to me that both movies stand alone by themselves. And so the connective tissue between them and seeing all the little fun things, if are there. But for the most part, I tried to keep them like organic to the movies and not just be so in your face.
It'd be funny if it was like, what was it? Rise of Skywalker or whatever. It's just like, here comes flying in. Goth as the original, or something.
Like on the theaters, it's like now, playing next week, Kid Cudi live performance.
Yeah.
a little on the nose. So side note again, we saw this at an Alamo Drafthouse. I got to get your thought. Love Alamo Drafthouse. I'm from Austin, Texas, so it's like in my movie going blood. But are you a traditional theater guy? Or are you a dine-in theater guy?
I like both. I think that the only dine-in theaters I really like are Alamo Drafthouse. And particularly having gone to them in Austin back in like the early 2000s is when I was first introduced to them with my first movie, really. Especially in Austin, the like brand of Alamo Drafthouse and the audiences that love Alamo Drafthouse, like they get it. And so for all of the distractions that come with a dine-in theater thing, for the most part, everyone's like, we understand how to do this, and we understand, let's not make a whole thing out of it so we can still watch the movie. Other dine-in theaters to me is just like, down in front, like it's just someone's living room. Whereas I think the Drafthouse really tries to incorporate as best they can to stop it being distracting. And if you go to see them in Austin, particularly where it's been so baked in to the culture there's a really great deal of respect as far as it's branched out. When it lands in new places, I'm sure they have some bumpy roads in the beginning of people who are just, not quite getting that. Yes, we serve food, but really it's about the movies. So shut up. And I think, and they're really good about being humorously strict about things like phones and talking, and they will throw you out and give you no refund. And it's just to let you know that it's like, yes, order mozzarella sticks, but like, but on the DL, it's like, it's still about the movies. And so I think it's the rare place that you can go to and have a really good experience.
We're like pretty traditional movie theater guys, but we're also not note takers during press screenings and like I think that takes you out of the movie to look down at a piece of paper and start writing stuff. But we are always around just very like feverish note takers.
Furious note takers.
Well, we never been do like a screening at a dine-in, so then it's like it was like a lot of note taking, a lot of like eating,
shoveling,
and we were
down,
like,
yeah.
oh my god, this is a chaotic screening tonight. And H24 was great. They gave us like $50 gift cards, and they were just buying all the food. We're like, we'll have popcorn. Just give us a traditional bowl of popcorn. Yeah,
yeah.
That was, I think the first time I saw Blade Runner 2049 was in an AMC dine-in. Terrible mistake. Awful mistake. That was a movie that's meant to see in IMAX and not in a dine-in.
Yeah, there's something about the marketing of like, the multiplex dine-in or the big leather chairs, the recliner thing where you just end up in someone's living room and you're not really in a movie theater, and then the movie becomes an afterthought. And for certainly for a filmmaker or even just an audience who likes to watch a movie, it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve pans over and there's someone in the audience just like cutting a T-bone. It's like, yeah, sure, it'll go over well.
While you were filming X, were you guys like just taking notes, but just generally keeping the prequel in mind? Because I know you were talking about how you and Mia Goth worked a lot together. Were you ever like, you finish the scene and you're like, hey, no, like, remember this? We can do this when we go back and then we do Pearl.
I think I was doing that quite a bit. I don't think Mia was thinking about it. I think she was like full dedication to MaXXXine and Pearl while we were doing X. But I was certainly, self-aware. I mean, even down to like the opening shot of X and the opening shot of Pearl are referential to one another. And so I was logging things that would make these movies connect, even though they were standalone movies. And there were certain things that, we knew she was going to wear overalls and we knew there was going to be a spin on that and things like that. So we were getting ahead of it as much as we could. And then I think when we were filming Pearl, there was moments where perhaps in Mia's performance, there was something that reminded the audience and her of older Pearl, or reminded her of MaXXXine, and there was an interesting parallel and things like that. Like the Scarecrow scene, for instance, was in many ways a little bit like MaXXXine in the barn. So there was like there was moments like that we would go, oh, this would be interesting to lean into that.
Mm-hmm. You kind of mentioned this before. You talked about test screenings and how horror sometimes doesn't always rate well with test screenings. We mentioned this the other day. Who did we talk to? Oh, Justin Long. He's in Barbarian. Mm-hmm. We talked about, I think the sweet spot, and I'm curious what your perspective is. And I know some people, Rotten Tomatoes and all that don't care. But if I'm looking for a horror movie, I kind of like when the audience score is in like the 60s to 75s. Like, because to me, I'm like, all right, I think this may have challenged people out of the box, and they're just like, nah, this is just like I didn't vibe with it. I like, because I don't know, I feel like I kind of get that sense. It's like it's different, it's out there. It's not just a straight A to Z like slasher. Is that the type of reaction you want? Like a little divisive, like not that you want people to hate your movie, but I don't know if you share that sentiment.
I think it's certainly anything that I tend to find is good is going to be somewhat polarizing. I mean, it's a weird thing because of something like Rotten Tomatoes or something like test screenings. They're useful, and there is value to the statistics being averaged out and things like that, and you do learn things from it, and you can get a basic idea. But it's not as if when the audience is watching a movie in a test screening, they are making their decisions and their feedback based on the movie they're watching, or if they're just doing it on the experience they're having, or if they're doing it on what their anticipations of the movie that they've been asked to come see, and everyone is putting on their like, I have an opinion hat that you wouldn't necessarily do in real life. So you're getting a kind of weirdly manufactured environment. And the movies that tend to test the best are the movies that tend to be exactly what they told you it was going to be. Mm-hmm. So like, for instance, like a movie like, say, Toy Story or something like that is like, to not like Toy Story is to just be an asshole. Because it's like, what did you think it was going to be? It is a nice movie for families and children, and we have delivered on that with laughs and whatever, and it's paced and whatever. So it's like, of course that would test well, because it's not like someone went in there going like, well, I was expecting it to be like The Hateful Eight, and I didn't get that. You know what I mean? But with a horror movie, you could be expecting a huge range of the spectrum of things, and you never know what people are going to think. And so some people are going to come in and say, well, I was expecting it to be the goriest movie ever, and it wasn't, so therefore I'm rating it poorly. Which is like, well, if you hadn't thought it was that, would you have had a different experience? So, it's a flawed thing. I mean, you get a good average idea out of it, but it's never that accurate. So to your point, I think, in that 60s, 70s world, you're in a good place that, like, look, it's more than half. So it's like 51% or more is on the side of the movie, which is a good thing to be. But you're also not something that's just like, this is just a branded product that everyone just approved of.
Yeah. No, that's good insight. Yeah.
It's part of the thing in this movie, specifically I would say in X2, is just that like horror and horniness are such like a seductive sort of pairing. Is there just some sort of psychology to that like we're just too dumb to really get? Because I feel like everyone has that same sort of visceral reaction to it, but no one can really describe why.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they're just subversive ideas, and they're both kind of this like, controversial, like, these are the outsider elements of movies, these provocative things. And, in X, for me, I was just interested in a story where, generally speaking, a movie like that, the older, more puritanical people are angry that the young people are doing something like wrong. Whereas in X, they're actually just jealous that they can't do it anymore. And that felt like an interesting, more accurate human perspective on it. And sort of, we just kind of elaborated from there. But also horror and porn have always had this sort of symbiotic relationship of being these sort of like outsider genre. Like you could make both those kinds of movies and not be part of Hollywood. You could make them independently. So in X, all those characters are like, we don't need Hollywood. We can make our own movie, and if it's good, we can take it to our theaters that will show it. And VHS is coming, and that'll be great. And this will become our own studio. We'll become our own movie stars. And there's something really exciting about that entrepreneurial nature to it. And horror and porn are unique in that way, in that there's a fan base that doesn't have to be part of the overall major system.
I love that.
So for those who don't know, you're a madman, MaXXXine. We've seen the teaser for now a third movie. When it said coming soon, do we know when we can expect this? Is there anything you can tell us about this? It has like an 80s vibe to it, right? And it looks, is it set in Hollywood? What can you say?
I'm going to say very little, and only because we made both these movies back to back, and nobody knew that we did that. And we made it all the way to the South by Southwest premiere of X before we told anyone about Pearl, and that was very satisfying and was kind of part of the fun of the movie. Is that like there's another movie, and then that gave people debate for a while, and then here we are at Pearl. We made it all the way to the Toronto screening without spoiling the fact that we had the teaser to show. Even down to the moderator of the Q&A didn't even know. You know what I mean? It was like the programmer of Toronto did not know we were going to do that. Like that's how like locked down we had to be.
Did you use like airplay it onto the screen?
It was, yeah, we had put it on the DCP, but no one, we didn't tell anyone we did it. So it was a, and in 2022, that's not easy.
I was gonna say,
it's like, someone will talk. And so we've been trying to be very careful in what we say. And so with MaXXXine, yes, it takes place in the 80s. Yes, it takes place in Hollywood. It's a very different kind of movie in the way that Pearl is very different than X. MaXXXine is very different than the other one, but it is an appropriate companion piece. And it won't be out quite as soon as Pearl was compared to but it won't be too long. But hopefully it'll be just long enough that when you forget, we'll show back up again.
That's beautiful.
A24 put out a casting call for extras on social. I mean, we may have to brush our chops up.
Yeah, I think we can make it good, depending on where it is. I don't know if I could do a good like LA accent or anything, depending on the time period. But like, man, I would have done good.
Did you need bearded white guys? Because I'll tell you what,
we're in short supply.
I'll tell you what,
especially in LA.
Tell you what, people think we're brothers sometimes too, so it could be a stunt double for the other.
Yeah. All right, we want to give you something, we call it a 6-pack of questions. So it's just 6 rapid fire questions. You can answer it, you can expound on it if you want. You don't have to. The first one is, which horror movies or directors do you think influenced you the most?
I think probably The Shining was the most traumatic movie I saw as a kid, and I think Kubrick was. I'd never seen a movie like that, and all of his movies, they were sort of like, there's nothing else like that. So they were very inspiring to me.
If you had the green light to make any movie you want with an infinite budget, what would you make it about? What would it be?
At the moment, it would be this MaXXXine movie. So I'll just tell A24 to crank up the up the cash. Yeah. We'll start blowing shit up in every scene.
Exactly. We're gonna have this. It's all shot on green screen in what do you call it, studio. What do you think is the best fast food restaurant? It's a very intense question.
Yeah, I would say it's probably In-N-Out, and that's because I've lived in California. Although I like a good chicken McNugget every once in a while on a road trip. Yeah. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I came across an Instagram and TikTok account of a guy in Illinois. He does like first person of him. He owns the McDonald's, like working behind the line. Fascinating. Like just him making McDonald's is it's mesmerizing. I can't get enough of it.
It's like watching the Uruk-hai scene in Lord of the Rings where they're making all the armor. He's just pumping out McNuggets. If you had to sort of like in no particular order, just say 3 of the top horror directors in the world right now, who would you say?
Today, who's doing the best stuff? I will butcher her last name, but Julia, it's a French last name. I don't want to say it wrong. Who did Raw and did Titane? She's really exciting.
That's really good.
Titane, wild movie.
Yeah. I think, Ari Aster is doing really interesting stuff. And who else is out there at the moment? Jordan Peele is certainly doing really interesting stuff, and he's in many ways mastered this sort of like excitement for the next movie kind of thing. Crazy, and that's really fun. There's very few people that can drum up that sort of excitement, so that's cool.
Is there a horror franchise out there that you think should end, let's say? Because every horror franchise, especially the OGs, like going back to Friday the 13th, Halloween, there's a trillion of them, and they never stop making them. Is there one that you think could use a nice swan song?
Most of them have outstayed their welcome.
That's the fair answer.
Yeah, it's not, sometimes the later ones are better, but very rarely. usually the deeper you get into it, at best you're going to get a good scene out of it. Like Jason Takes Manhattan, for instance. Not a great movie. 2 really great scenes in it, though. Uppercutting a head off in New York is pretty inspired, but yeah, you certainly, the wheels come off after a while. So I'm only going to make 3 of these, because beyond 3, is just, you're doomed.
What was the one we watched with somebody? We watched, I think it was Jason X.
Yeah,
they're in space. And freezes the guy. He freezes the guy's head in nitroglycerin and then smashes it. It's like, yeah, there's the scene. There's the one that makes it worth it. Is there? When that was the last one. Who's an actor that you're dying to work with? Like, there's one out there that you're just like, I would love to make a movie with this person.
I would love to make a movie with Tom Cruise. I can't imagine it. I don't see it necessarily happening for sure, but I'm not going to say never. But my feeling about I love Tom Cruise. And I think he's the most movie star. But I also think that Tom Cruise, I want to know if I can keep up.
Like, that's a great reason.
So hard, and I want to know. Like, I made 2 movies at the same time. I think I got a good output going, but I want to see if I can keep up with. He's flying the plane with the camera in the plane, bailing out of the plane, all in the same shot, and you're just like, all right, fair enough.
Can you make a promise to us and just say that if you do get to do a movie with him, that you'll make him play a villain? Because he is so good at villains and he just doesn't do them anymore. Like, you see him in Collateral and even like Interview with a Vampire. He is so good at it, he just doesn't do it anymore.
That would be great. He's great at villains. He's great at running. He's great at everything, he's however old he is, he's hanging off a plane. Like, they were like, Tom, and he's like, no, I'm going to have to hang off the plane when you take off. And everyone went, all right. And it's like, he just did that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing, because we got to wrap here in a second. And you can say no to this. If we mark this spoiler, can we ask you one spoiler-ish question?
Potentially.
Okay. All right. So if you're listening now, turn it off. It's kind of spoiler-ish. How many takes for the big moment?
The long take.
The long take. I'll say. I'll keep it vague like that. How many takes was that?
I think we did 7 of them, and I think the 4th one is in there.
God,
we did 6 or 7.
Was that like a fist pump when the first time it was done? You're like, oh fuck, because that's what we were like. Holy,
yeah, we were like, oh my god, this is still going. This is crazy.
It was stressful because it was like doing a stunt, and it was the kind of thing is that I knew it was going to be about 6 minutes with no cutting, and it was going to just be like completely a very challenging thing for one person to do. And it was very important that everybody else, the other 45 people around, just got out of the way. Like, if your phone went off during that, or if you coughed or you sneezed or a boom went in the shot, it was like the ramifications of what you were messing up was so huge, because it wasn't, we weren't sure how it was going to go. And it wasn't obvious we would be able to do it many times, and credit to Mia, we could. But it was definitely one of those things where it was like, please God, nobody get in the way of this, because it was like if you were doing a car crash, it was like everybody needs to be where they're supposed to be, because we get one shot at this. And we actually probably got 6 or 7 at it, but it's, if one thing went wrong, it killed the whole thing. And so that was, it was stressful.
What a great crier too, because she got the tears out and like all those, so good.
That was when we walked.
Like 3 different moments where she goes through that. It's really, and you're just like, wow, this is the same shot, and they've come and gone. It's pretty impressive.
When we walked out of theaters, the first thing we said, like immediately, we were like, holy shit, that moment. Check out Pearl. If you've not seen X, which at this point, you don't have to see X first, but either or, make sure you see X and Pearl in theaters. Awesome experience. This is a great time. I hope we get to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm glad you got to see it. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks you. Much. All right. Make sure to check out Pearl. We're going to talk about it next week. Barbarian. We talked about this last week when we had Justin Long on the podcast. Barbarian came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. Stars, like we mentioned, Justin Long, Georgina Campbell in the lead role as Tess, Bill Skarsgård as the character Keith, Justin Long as the character AJ. Directed by Zach Kreger, who big comedy background. We talked.
Kids, you know.
Yeah, crazy.
Miss
Yeah.
Arch.
Yeah.
He was. I didn't know that he was Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
In the famous Abraham Lincoln skit.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's been in a bunch of different things, but a lot of comedy. And here we go again, Comedy Mind, doing a
horror movie. Yeah,
a horror movie. He was also in the movie College, by the way, which starred Chicken Little from American Idol.
Kevin Covase. I thought
Yes.
that was such a weird. Who was that three? It was Drake Bell.
Kevin
Covase,
Kevin
who's the other
Covase.
one?
Haley Bennett was in that movie too. She's done a bunch of random shit since then. Yeah, that movie.
Summer 2008, I believe.
That was a Blockbuster movie for me and my friends in high school, our senior year. We would rent really shitty movies from Blockbuster, or we'd be like movie we hadn't heard of, and College was one of them. And I don't think it's good, but there's a lot of funny random shit in that movie for being a pretty bad movie. The Blockbuster gem find we found Foot Fist Way, by the way.
Such a good
that is a classic. Foot Fist Way is incredible.
Great
Who directed that? Because he directed something else afterwards. Right?
Foot Fist Way was directed. Jody Hill. Yeah.
No, Jody Hill. Because he did, honestly, I want to do at some point the one request. I want to do a throwback episode about Observe and Report because I think it is the single most cancelable movie that's ever made.
The entire back and forth between Seth Rogen and Aziz Ansari.
What the fuck would I want to blow up a Chick-fil-A? It's fucking delicious. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Seth Rogen just beats up a shit ton of cops and then like full on date rape.
Wait, did we not? Did we do a throwback review of Observe and
I
Report?
think we did a Paul Blart, or maybe we did.
No,
both.
I think we. Why did I watch? I watched it for some reason.
Yeah, relatively recently too.
No, it was on Netflix for a while.
Yeah.
That movie is more it's so funny because that movie is more disturbing to me than Joker. Like in terms of overall subject matter and the like, just how fucked up the main character.
Ray Liotta.
Yeah, that's right. It is Ray Liotta.
He has a rant in that is so funny when he blows up on Seth Rogen.
Who's the girl he was into as well?
Anna Faris.
Is Anna Faris? Okay, yeah. I thought it was for a second Amber Heard, but that was Pineapple Express.
That's fine. And then he was also into the bringing it back around to the interview you guys did last week. He was into that Colette Wolfe, I think her name was, the girl who worked with Cinnabon.
Yep.
And it's like it was one of those scenes where you're supposed to be rooting for Seth Rogen, like, yeah, he's gonna get back at him, and then he basically just shoves Patton Oswalt into an oven, like, and watching it be like, God damn, dude, like, is there anything likable about you? Ronnie Barnhart, hell of a character,
Yeah, Observe and Report. Yeah, it was
Fat Damon in this too. No,
that movie is
Earth Dick King.
I think we did a throwback of this. Anyway, Barbarian, getting a lot of love. 92% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 70% from audiences, which for a movie like this, I think 70% from audiences is like pretty fucking good. It is very much a subvert your expectations, different type of movie. I would go in not knowing much about this movie if you can.
Yep.
I think it helps out a lot. Here's a synopsis, doesn't give away a ton. Traveling to Detroit for a job interview, a young woman books a rental home. When she arrives late at night, she discovers that the house is double booked and a strange man is already staying there. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the evening, but soon discovers that there's a lot more to fear than just an unexpected house guest. I won't say too much off the top. We'll do a spoiler thing in a second. I really liked this movie. It was very different than most horror movies. It's completely different in terms of structure. Again, subvert your expectations is kind of a great way to say it. I won't say much more than that, but I thoroughly enjoyed Barbarian. Justin Long mentioned a little bit, almost like Sam Raimi. I almost said Sam Mendes. Sam Raimi vibes. Like you get some of that too. There's some
Wes Craven too, I felt.
Yeah. I thought it was very well done. It's a movie that makes you think. A movie that kind of leaves breadcrumbs there for you to figure things out along the way and kind of take leaps and figure it out on your own and decide how you view the movie, what it's saying, title, all of that and more. I gave Barbarian 87 out of 100. I think it's one of the better movies of the year. A huge surprise. Did not think this would be up there. It's been a really good year for horror, and it continues with Barbarian. Ken, Jack.
I would say that the biggest thing about this movie is definitely what you just said, which is go into it not knowing anything, because there is a lot of insane twists and turns, and I think that really does like enhance or make your experience so much better when you don't know the characters, the timelines, the plots, or anything like that. I think this was it was like a maze of a movie, but in like a really, really, really good way. I think all the performances were awesome. Justin Long included played a great asshole. Great asshole in that movie, especially towards and without spoiling, like getting towards his scenes near the end of the movie are awesome. That was like an all-time like oh yeah moment, and I think that it's one where horror is so. We talk about it all the time. At least I talk about it all the time with horror. It's so like top heavy. I think this was a really solid like. Not excellent horror movie. It was a really solid one to watch and one I could easily recommend to almost anyone. Not one that's going to be like overtly mega gruesome and like you're not going to want to watch, or one that's just overly reliant on jump scares or anything. It's just a good ass story.
It's no more gruesome than an episode of Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that might be a high bar now. I don't know.
Yeah, but
what do you call it? I think that there's a lot to be offered here for someone who like is more like me and just isn't into going and watching like the Nun or whatever, something else just going to be nonstop jump scares. There's more to offer in this, and I love that.
The Nun, baby.
And that's where I think it's really smart having a guy like Kreger come in, because like a lot of horror brains have like the same mindset going into these, like, hey, let's spend $2 million and have teenagers pay us back our budget 15-fold. But I think this had like a more fresh sort of look, and I really appreciated it. I gave it an 84, by the way.
Robbie.
Oh, yeah, so I'm actually splitting the difference, right at 85. Okay. Was not looking forward to seeing this movie. It just felt like, I will say, if you're listening to this review, and sometimes a lot of people listen to the spoiler review and still go see the movie afterwards anyway, because spoilers don't ruin the experience for them. This is a movie where if you don't, the less you know going in, the better. I knew hardly anything. I'd seen one trailer earlier when we posted it when it first came out. But outside of that, I didn't know much about this. And it elevated the viewing experience tremendously for me. The first 20 minutes set it up as one thing, and it goes a completely different direction from there. I had a lot of fun with it. It's kind of perverse. It takes a lot of joy in doing some fun stuff.
Good
visually.
redirects. A lot of good redirects.
Yeah, I thought the lead, Georgina
Campbell,
yeah, she was great.
Really good.
Where is she from? What else was she in before? Was she in Black Mirror? Was that?
She is in a Black Mirror episode. Yeah,
just
Hang
had her
the DJ.
Up. 1 second.
She's in Hang the DJ episode of Black Mirror, Krypton, Broadchurch, and Flowers.
A lot of stuff you probably haven't seen if you're listening.
Smaller stuff then, yeah. But she was quite. I'm with you, good. She was quite good. Yeah.
She was quite good because she delivered on like just a lot of different facets. I mean, in terms of horror acting, can sometimes be just a one pitch kind of style where you just act scared the whole time.
One note,
she delivered good dramatic stuff, good comedic, a lot of great comedic stuff in here. Movie was fun. Yeah, no, I'd recommend seeing it in a theater. I saw it in a theater. I think it was about 4:00 on Friday. Room full of NYU kids. I was a little worried I was going to pee myself in front of them or have to walk out, and that would have been just killer for my ego. But yeah, no, it was fun. The theater had fun with it. A lot of like, what the fuck? Like just audible, just a couple. Like you just hear someone in the back just go, what the fuck?
Yeah, there's some real fucked up like weird shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Plays well in the story though. Doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It was good. It was really good.
Chris, what do you think about Barbarian?
Well, it's a weird thing. I've said on here before. I'm not a fan of horror movies, and so much of that is I don't sensory issues. I hate jump scares, and really, I just think that so many of them are so consistently repetitive that it annoys me. So the experience of watching this movie was not a lot of fun. I mean, I'm a big pussy. People know. I was covering my ears and my eyes for a majority of it, waiting for the next jump scare. But after I left the theater and ran home, which is kind of a funny story.
Like
this
physically ran home?
Okay, yeah, because here
you went on a run home.
Can I tell the story here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I run or jog a lot. That's like I was a big fat fuck before I got like a year before I got hired by Barstool. And a big reason why I've lost that weight is I run quite often. And the movie theater that I'm at is about 1.5 miles away from where I live. So it was, I think, a 6:30 showing. So I ran to the theater when it was still, nice out, sun was setting. And I'm like, all right, I'll go see this movie. And when I left, it was pitch black. And the last thing I wanted to fucking do was run in the dark after seeing Barbarian. And I was like, there were multiple times. For whatever reason, there were 2 men that I came across who were in crutches in their garages just staring at me. And I'm like, look,
fuck up.
I'm like, this motherfucker comes at me. I'm sorry for, your affliction, but it's me or you. Like, this is going to be fight or flight. And as crazy as all that sounds, this is actually one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I really, really like this a lot. I think that despite my qualms, my frustrations with horror movies, this movie works. on 3 different levels. One, I love the way it's directed. Now it is this guy doing his best Jordan Peele impression, but hey, there's a lot worse imitators out there. I think there's a really unique visual language to the movie. I love not to spoil it too much, but I love the kind of, not montage, but the flashback to, how the main villain of the piece, kind of his origin story, and how creepy that was and how just quiet that was. And I think they actually changed the aspect ratio too when they go back in time to the 80s. I thought that was very creepy. The acting's great here. Justin Long, I know he was never he never went away, but watching him in this, I'm like, how did he not become a bigger star? Because he's playing such an ass in this, and he's very charismatic. Even when he's legitimately a bad person, but you still kind of like him. Like the way he delivers lines is good, but the story is excellent, and the character of the mother is one of the really good horror antagonists that we've seen in a minute. So I think it's a very effective movie. I think it's a scary movie. Gooch, you just kind of alluded to it. I think that this is a movie that my senior year of college, I went to see it in a packed crowd at Celebration Cinema in Mount Pleasant, and people were going nuts. This is a movie that's going to be like that for a lot of people. And I really think people are going to respond and be yelling at the screen and jumping. It's a very clever story. It's a unique story. Yes, there are issues I have with it. There are still a lot of dumb character decisions that only exist just to move the plot forward. But the journey as a whole, I was satisfied with it. And the one thing I give any movie credit for, especially a movie this intense, doesn't overstay its welcome. I mean, the movie literally, it's intentional. The movie cuts itself off. When the second that the main plot has ended, credits start rolling.
Yep.
So I actually, I don't like horror movies, so because of that, it's hard for me to recommend it to people who might not. But as a film, I think that this is, they didn't cut any corners here. I was actually, in hindsight, very impressed by what they did with Barbarian. So I do recommend it with that caveat of knowing if these aren't your kind of films, I don't know if you'll dig it. But I was happy with it. I think it's very good and memorable. I mean, I saw it a week ago. I think you guys probably saw it well before me. It stuck with me. There is some legit commentary. And one last thing, because I know I'm rambling. I can't believe I went this long without mentioning this. The movie takes place in Detroit.
I was literally about to ask. I was like, "Are you satisfied with how?"
I'm not as familiar with that part of Michigan as some people might think I am, but I thought there was, especially in that scene that I just brought up with the flashback, there's some very subtle commentary regarding the current state of suburban Detroit. And
they made a comment with Reagan. They were making a comment on Reagan, it felt like with the radio.
Yeah, and just the look of the neighborhood from the flashback sequence to the present day sequence. I thought the stuff with the cops was a little bit weird. I thought there was a little bit there was a gray area there where it's like, are you making a comment on police brutality? Are you making a comment on are you saying police are stupid? That was kind of weird to me. I didn't really vibe with that. But in terms of just, there's I feel like a legit statement about kind of that cultural ladder and the passage of time and the way that Detroit has changed, that I legitimately I appreciate it. So it's a movie I've come to like way more over time. I think this is really, really good. And I'm glad to see it picking up some steam and doing well at the box office too, because it's an original idea with some really unique ideas. Yeah,
especially versus some of other horror movies that come out where it's just what was that one, that the vampire one, the Invitation or whatever, and all that other stuff where it's just
that looks awful.
They're those ones are just built. They have nothing to say. They're just built to make money. But it's nice to have one like this where it's someone had a very original idea and let's do something cool.
Yeah, and, well, even we recently reviewed Bodies, which I think is similar genre, but it's I think it leans way heavily closer to the horror comedy. But the problem with that is that movie was so simplistic with its story, and every character, while it's intentional, every character in that movie is an idiot, or just completely unlikable. Here, I found myself wrapped. I got wrapped into the story. I really did, and I think one weird thing. Bill Skarsgård at the very beginning, I did not think was actually that good. I thought he was a little bit wooden.
Major, where's my hug at?
Yeah. But I also saw he was an executive producer on this.
Was he really?
Yeah, so that makes me think that maybe he bought into this idea, and maybe as a favor was like, yeah, I'll be in it. So yeah, good movie. I'm glad all of us like it.
Major spoiler at this point, like we kind of dove into a little bit. Like,
I threw a ton out there. Sorry.
I mean, it's not a traditional like kind of A to B, like you know what you're getting with this type of horror movie. I mean, even in the end, like you mentioned the antagonist, Chris. Like you could argue the woman isn't even the antagonist.
She's a victim.
She is a victim. Like that's kind of that's kind of the way you need to kind of look at it. I'll give this context to the director. Did say like I believe it was male privilege is like part of the theme here, which is what is
she has a dialogue about she delivers a line that men will run straight to the door and they don't care who's behind it. Like
you see that with Frank the old man, the man who has committed like the heinous like sexual crimes and all that. And you see it with AJ, Justin Long's character, who is being accused of something, does a really bad job explaining it off. Very clearly, like not
definitely
a good guy.
Guilty.
Yeah, like very clearly guilty, and like they are like the I guess quote unquote barbarians. There, you know, he fucking throws Tess off the.
That's why it's got that title.
There you go. Throws Tess off the water tower.
I thought it was because you couldn't spell Airbnb without Barbarian. You can't spell Barbarian without Airbnb.
It's just a big advertisement. It's an advertisement for Verbo. Actually, they don't want you doing Airbnb. Like this is why you just do Verbos instead. I thought it was a neat way to do that because it really kept you the whole. First of all, obviously in the beginning you're meant to think that Bill Skarsgård character is
it's a good misdirect.
It's a good misdirect.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of misdirected a second time to like, oh fuck, this woman is just like this is fucked up. Like she's like this demon. She is just like this literal monster. But then again, it's just another misdirect because in the end, like you're kind of forced to feel sympathetic for it. Because like in the end, she is a victim in this process, and you recognize that as she, you know, that's kind of I guess Tess win in the end.
Yeah, I mean, as much of a win as you can get in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, as much. I mean, all things considered. But I do like because even with AJ, you're like, shit, are we supposed to like feel bad? Are we supposed to think? And then you realize like, no, this dude kind of sucks. Like, wait, and then because even like when they're escaping and when they're getting away, and you're like, all right, shit, like it's gonna be these two in the end potentially. You're like, oh, like, but he kind of sucks.
Yes.
And then it all kind of comes to pass.
Yeah.
And even Justin Long's character, to the film's credit, does have an arc. Like there is, you know, they actually do kind of complete that circle. It doesn't make him it doesn't make him a lovable, like sympathetic character, obviously, but at least
complete character, I guess, more, right?
For sure, yeah. And it's funny, that actor, was it Frank was the name of the guy who was the
old guy.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out where I'd seen that actor from. Because all he ever plays is creeps. And I think he played Joe Chill in Batman.
He did play Joe Chill.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's a great creep. He was also in Doom, one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. He's a really good asshole in that.
He's also the Night King.
He was also, yes, I think before they recasted that other dude. He was also, I want to say, in Mandy. It was like him and that other good British actor.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Wait, was he the old dude in what was Edgar Wright's movie last year?
Last Night in Soho.
Oh
Yeah, was he the old guy?
No. That was
different old guy.
That was Chancellor Valorum, wasn't it? It was Terrence Stamp.
Terrence Stamp, Chancellor Valorum. Yeah.
Oh, it was Terrence Stamp. Yeah.
This guy's not nearly that old.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Thor the Dark World, good, nice, good for him.
Yeah, good for him being in Thor the Dark World.
Death of Stalin too. Damn, man.
This is something that you should definitely know. I mean, at this point, if you've fucking heard this, you've kind of ruined the whole thing. But I think this is one where like, you go in, you have a little expectation for something, and you get thrown around. You get thrown for a loop a bunch in here. And again, it makes you kind of wait. It makes you kind of need to pick the pieces up on your own, which I love. Like I thought this was easily one of the better movies released this year. A lot
of trust in the audience.
Exactly, creative, different. It respects the audience.
Yeah.
Right,
Very rare.
Like it really has a respect of like people seeing this. You know what? Here we go. Here are the puzzle pieces. Put it together. And it's not a movie. It's like ooh, this movie is it's however you make it for yourself. Like we talked about with Nope. Like I think there's a billion ways you could look at Nope. This has a fairly clear how you look at it, but it's about how you get there and how you arrive there. I actually Chris Stuckman said in his review, like you're still wondering who the Barbarian is at the end. You've probably not paid attention. you probably aren't really watching the movie. So it's fairly cut and dry in that sense. But getting there is the battle with this, and I mean that in a good way. It's just Barbarian is awesome.
Genuine, maybe one of my biggest surprises of the entire year.
For sure.
I was really, really pleased with this. I don't want that to be overlooked. Like this is, I think this is an exceptionally well-made movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of doors.
Good point.
Just a lot of doors. Kept opening every single door.
Yeah,
it was a door-heavy house. It was a what was that thing in the rehearsal? That opening line that Nathan says, he's like, "Is Door City over here or something?" And he goes in his apartment. Skeet. I mean, just not to go off on a tangent, but Core Skeet had to be one of the all-time coolest names I think I've ever heard.
For sure. Yeah.
I think I was just like a random weirdo, but man, Core Skeet, what a name.
Would you guys have drank the milk?
Always a good fuck. I mean, at that point,
yeah.
If I'm stuck there at that point, I'll drink arsenic.
Honestly, that's what for next week's House of the Dragon in the previews. That's what King Viserys looks like. He looks like Mother. He looks like Mama.
See, I need to see it. I haven't seen the preview.
As shit, dude.
Also,
crazy.
When they cut to the end credits, perfect use of "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. That was a great song choice to cut to. Oh, that ruled.
I'm really excited to see what Zach Krieger does next.
Same.
I think that this was a very, he co-directed Miss March or directed Miss So. I mean, but for
see if he's got anything on the
essentially his new a debut of his new kind of style. So I'm very excited to see. It's very weird how comedy directors are turning into horror directors. I don't know how that would.
We've talked about this for I guess for like 2 years now, maybe more than that.
I wouldn't expect that connection to be made, but I guess it's about subverting expectations with both, and they've done a great job with that.
Kind of like two sides of the same coin. I think that's what we were talking about with Justin Long.
Yeah.
It's like they're very similar sort of approaches, just in different objectives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what makes you laugh and what makes you scared, you can kind of keyhole them in a weird way in the same kind of overall sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going back to comedy next. He's doing a series. He's writing a series. It's based on Stripes. The
good ass.
Bill Murray, John Candy.
Pearl and the Woman King next week. I'm very excited to talk about Pearl.
Right.
I got to see Woman King.
I'm excited for the Woman King.
I am too. It's apparently very good. I'm going to see it this week. All right. I think that's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. For Ken, Jack, Chris, Gooch, I'm Jeff D'Lo. We will talk to you next time.